Chapter 890. Hearing Lin Feng's words, Xiao Yan and the other's eyes lit up. Master. Lin Feng smiled and waved his hand. He looked at Xiao Yan and said, Xiao Yan, stay on Yujing Mountain and focus on recuperating and refining the Xidagarba true flame. You've sacrificed a lot this time. If you can get little Lin and the others to bring back the true light of Xidagarba, your primordial spirit will be able to control the 5-color fiery lotus, even though you can't activate it. The gazes that the others looked at Xiao Yan were both grateful and unable to bear it. Xiao Yan instead smiled. It's fine, Master. I can still make it in time now. Lin Feng nodded and smiled. Try to figure it out yourself. You might gain something else. It might be a new opportunity. But remember, don't try the 6-colored fiery lotus before you reach void return. Otherwise, the power of destruction will destroy your primordial spirit. If you want to refine the karmic fire of the red lotus, you need to be careful. 7 types of true flames are too much for you now. Yes, Master. I understand. Xiao Yan agreed. Lin Feng continued. Thank you, little junior brother. You can refine the divine stone of two-phase battle, according to the method I taught you. Even now, you can refine a powerful body. Shi Tianhao smiled and said, What do you think, eldest senior brother? I told you that you would like it. Xiao Yan snickered. Even a fool will get it right once in a while. You're finally reliable for once. Everyone else laughed. Shi Tianhao was not annoyed. He smiled and shook his fist at Xiao Yan. You should stay on the mountain and cultivate well. After talking to Xiao Yan, Lin Feng looked at Zhu Yi. Xiao Yi, it's time for you to read thousands of books and travel thousands of miles. Do whatever you want to do. It will also improve your Permitha Golden Bridge. Zhu Yi nodded heavily. I understand. He also knew that Lin Feng had not left the mountain to train in seclusion this time, and Yujing Mountain would not easily show itself again. However, if there were any foreign enemies coming to invade, he had to control the Golden Nirvana Bridge, to return in time to play a role, and hold on until Lin Feng returned. This was also one of the reasons why Lin Feng kept him in the Divine Land. When Lin Feng said that he could do whatever he wanted to do, he naturally meant that he could look for Zhu Honggu. Lin Feng smiled at Yu Hongyan and said, You have also gained a lot from this trip to the southern wasteland. From now on, you should focus on refining the army vanquisher halberd, and at the same time, prepare for breaking through to the middle stage of Yuanying. Yu Hongyan also smiled, and his sword-like red eyebrows became much softer. I understand. Then Lin Feng pointed at Wang Lin, Shi Tianhao, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qingwu. The few of you follow me to Infinite Wasteland. The 5 of them bowed together and said, I understand. After giving instructions to his disciples, Lin Feng gave Xiao Zhen, and Gu Peng the life and death nether Dao fruit, which was used to refine the evil soul of King Tang of the ancient royal family. King Tang and the others were dead after all, and it was almost impossible for them to really come back to life. How to deal with it, whether to keep the Dao fruit or send them to the afterlife, depended on Xiao Zhener's family. The other 2 life and death nether Dao fruits obtained from the king of the underworld were used to refine the ancient heavenly gates Elder Heavenly Spirit and Wu Zi, one of the ancient Confucian sect's second sage. They could not directly obtain the ancient heavenly gates and ancient Confucian sect's legacies from the 2, and could only observe and speculate from the side. However, Lin Feng and the others did not plan to do so. They directly shattered the life and death nether Dao fruit, and sent the 2 to the afterlife. Before Lin Feng left the mountain, the people of Mount Shu Sword Sect finally came. The one who came was Sword Venerable Xiaoyang, hoping to exchange for Sword Venerable Xiaoshang and Sword Venerable Li Xiong, as well as the 5 swords of Xiaoshang, Sword Venerable Li Xiong, Sword Venerable Xiaoyang, Sword Venerable Xiaozi, and Sword Venerable Guanchong that Xianmen Tianzong had captured. Naturally, Xianmen Tianzong would not return the few immortal swords. Sword Venerable Xiaoshang, who had participated in the siege of Xiaoyan, Feng Biji, and Zen Master Dade, would not be redeemed either. As for Sword Venerable Taiyin, Sword Venerable Xiaozi, and Sword Venerable Guanchong, Lin Feng did not bother with them. The only one who could be redeemed was Sword Venerable Li Xiong. Sword Venerable Xiaoyang, or rather, the entire Mount Shu Sword Sect's attitude was a little strange. They did not fight for too much. And in an obvious way, they only redeemed Sword Venerable Li Xiong at the price of redeeming 2 people. Even Sword Venerable Li Xiong, who had always been vicious and ruthless, was a little dazed after leaving the Dark Sky God sealing banner. He left with Sword Venerable Xiaoyang with a complicated expression. However, some news that came from Mount Shu was quite worth pondering. After Xian Longsheng, Sword Venerable Heavenly Dipper, and Sword Venerable Firmament rebuilt the peaks and rebuilt the Mount Shu mountain gate, Xian Longsheng resigned from his position as the sect leader of the Mount Shu Sword sect. He meditated at the peak of Mount Shu for a day and a night. After watching the sunrise, he traveled far away without a trace. Sword Venerable Heavenly Dipper and Sword Venerable Firmament remained at Mount Shu, but they went into seclusion together. Sword Venerable Xiaoyang took over the position of sect leader, becoming the first sect leader of the Mount Shu Sword sect who was not at the Dao integration stage. Mount Shu's forces shrank like never before. They guarded a corner of western Shu and sealed the mountain. They did not communicate with the outside world for a short period of time. Even the Grand Elder of Taishu Temple, Dao Venerable Yu Yuan, who came to visit, only stayed for a short while before leaving. As for Xianmen Tianzong, the reconstruction of the Mystic Sky Realm, Cloud Mirror City, and Cloud Peak Mirror Lake was naturally handled by Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the others. After making arrangements for other matters, Lin Feng left the mountain with Wang Lin, Shi Tianhao, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qingguo. Tunton also went with them. The little guy also wanted to return to Infinite Wilderness. Lin Feng and the others first went to the Void Battlefield to find the king of the Underworld's realm according to the information they received from Su Anda. They found the place, but there was only a desolate and dark world in front of them. Not only was there no one, even the original Black Palace had disappeared. Wang Lin's eyes flickered coldly. Silently, he sensed the aura flowing in this dimensional realm. Shi Tianhao gritted his teeth and said, "He really knows how to dig a hole." Lin Feng said silently, "After this battle, both the King of the Underworld and the Underworld Hall will lie dormant for a period of time. However, he has not given up and will definitely jump out. It's still unknown whether the line we set up previously will catch a big fish. Since we set up the line, the King of the Underworld will also set up the line himself. When the time comes, we will see who is more skilled. Let's go." Lin Feng waved his sleeve and swept everyone away. They left the King of the Underworld realm and headed for Infinite Wilderness. In a certain dimensional realm, in the territory of the Great Qin dynasty, there were not only cultivators but also mortals. There was a big city with many villages around it. In one of the small villages, there was an ordinary family. The elderly and the husband and wife of the family were farmers for a living. More than 2 years ago, the wife had been pregnant for 10 months and gave birth to a son. This added another member to the family and continued the family line. The villagers all congratulated them. Be it the elderly or the husband and wife, they were all very happy. Although the child was young, he was obedient and they doted on him even more. The couple and the old man went to work in the fields. The old woman coaxed the child to sleep. "Happy is sleepy. Happy is sleeping. Take a nap." The child, whose nickname was Happy, hugged his grandmother and fell asleep peacefully. Seeing that her grandson had fallen asleep, the old woman also took a nap. The old woman was asleep, but Happy's eyes were wide open. He did not get up. His right eye suddenly turned pitch black, projecting a black shadow in the room. Not only could ordinary people not see this shadow, even cultivators below the Essence Soul realm could not see it. Even if someone entered the room, even if the old woman woke up, she would only see Happy sleeping soundly. This child named Happy was naturally the reincarnation of the King of the Underworld. His expression was peaceful. Spending time with his family in this life allowed him to clearly feel the joy of life and the peace of death. Together, they helped him recover his strength. He was the King of the Underworld, the ruler of the 2 worlds of life and death. He was not a god impermanence who only cultivated the will of death. In the shadow, a few figures appeared. All of them were dressed in black robes. The one in the lead was tall and tall. His appearance could not be seen clearly, but he was an expert of the Dao integration realm. The master of the Underworld Hall, the head of the 10 infernal kings and the one with the highest cultivation, King Yanluo, had always been loyal to the king of the underworld, Happy. Su Anda had secretly plotted a rebellion, and was most wary of him. Su Anda had brought the Book of Life and Death to Mount Yujing and had no choice but to leave behind the Mahayana grade artifact, the king of the underworld's brush, to watch over him. Beside King Yanluo were the king of equality and the king of chakra, who were also loyal to the king of the underworld. Apart from them, there was another person. He was a pale old man with a thin face. He was the disobedient king, Sikongyu, who had been killed by Wang Lin, Zhang Lai and King Chujiang. Wang Lin's intuition that day was correct. Sikongyu had indeed faked his death. Like King Yanluo, he was also a loyal follower of the king of the underworld. He had even secretly obtained some clues about Su Anda's rebellion, which was why Su Anda had prioritized his death. However, who knew that everything was within the king of the underworld's calculations, and Sikongyu had been ordered to beat him at his own game. Beside the four of them were four other people, but all of them were kneeling on the ground and kowtowing to the king of the underworld, who was shrouded in black light. The person in the lead was a young man dressed in a black robe with golden edges. He was holding a long writing brush with a black pole and a golden tip in his hands, and he raised it high above his head. This person was naturally the artifact spirit of the king of the underworld's writing brush. He was originally an artifact refined by the king of the underworld, and later passed it down to Su Anda. In the end he rebelled together with Su Anda. The three people beside the king of the underworld's writing brush were King Chujiang, King Bianqing, and King Dusher. You may be spared from death, but you will not be spared from punishment. Happy, who looked like a 2 to 3 years old child, gently flipped through the Book of Life and Death in front of him. For rays of light entered the bodies of the king of the underworld's writing brush, King Chujiang and King Chujiang. Painful expressions appeared on their faces. Even though they had managed to preserve their lives, the four of them did not feel any joy in their hearts. With the method that the king of the underworld had laid down, he only needed to think about it, and they would immediately die. They would not be able to resist at all. But this was already the best result, so they could only thank him. Other than the original members of the Underworld Palace, there were two figures beside them that were not actually present. They were projections formed by magic power. One was an old man with red hair and beard, and the other was a young man in white. Reincarnation Sect's Azura Path Sect Master, the New Generation Sect Master, Emo Shuluo, and the New Generation Celestial Path Sect Master, Dao Paragon Tiantan, Shin Qifeng. Both of them looked very calm. King Yanluo and Sikongyu did not look surprised when they looked at them. When the king of the underworld's writing brush, King Chujiang, and the others saw this, they smiled bitterly in their hearts. How could they not know that Emo Shuluo and Shin Qifeng had long since pledged their allegiance to the king of the underworld? Su Anda had schemed against Shi Tianfang, but he did not know that from the beginning, he and Shi Tianfang had been in the king of the underworld's plan. The king of the underworld looked at them and said silently, Xianmen Tianzong and Taishu Temple hope to use you to follow the vines and find the melons. It will be hard for the two of you to continue staying in the divine land to deal with them. Emo Shuluo and Shin Qifeng bowed together. It is our honor. Chapter 891. Ever since the end of the primordial era, the main vast thousand world of the great heaven primordial world had been split into two. The human race and the demon race each occupied one side. The human race world was known as the divine land, while the demon race world was known as the infinite wilderness vast land. Although it was called the infinite wilderness, it was not really desolate. It was just that the flow of spirit chi there was not suitable for human cultivators, and was more suitable for the demon race. For essence soul cultivators, it was not difficult for them to convert spirit chi into heaven and earth. However, for human cultivators who had yet to form the essence soul, their activities there would be slightly restricted. The degree of restriction was not great, but it would take more effort to refine the spirit chi of heaven and earth into their bodies. It was not a big deal usually, but during a life and death battle, it might take one's life. On the other hand, the demon race would be in a similar situation when they went to the divine land. The discomfort would only be alleviated if they had lived in the divine land for a long time. Lin Feng and the others had arrived at the infinite wilderness vast land. Lin Feng, Wang Lin and Shi Tianhao were fine. Tunten was as happy as a fish in water. Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang and Luo Qingwu clearly felt that the circulation of their dermic powers was not as smooth as it was in the Divine Land. Although the difference was not great, it was clear. The three of you have never been to the infinite wilderness vast land before. This is also a form of training, said Lin Feng with a smile. Yang Qing and the other two nodded. Shi Tianhao smiled and said, actually the difference is not that great. It's fine after you get used to it. Among the people of the celestial sect of wonders, he could be considered the person who had entered and exited the continent the most, and was also the most familiar with this place. In fact, a long time ago, he already had a strong reputation in the vast continent of Tianhuang, causing the expressions of many of the demon clans who were active near the entrance of the divine continent's domain passage to change. It was because this fellow was truly too savage. Not only did he kill, he even ate. Moreover, he didn't care if they were cold or raw, causing the demon race to cry to the heavens. They were almost unable to distinguish between humans and demons. Out of all the disciples under Lin Feng, Wang Lin was the most infamous in the Divine Land. Ever since he entered the void battlefield in the late stages of the Golden Elixir, he had killed Yuan Ying and blinded one of Shi Tianyi's eyes. In the following years, whenever he fought, there were almost no survivors. To be honest, Shi Tianyi was one of the few who survived after fighting with him. The last time he entered the void battlefield, his hands were stained with blood. Anyone who took the initiative to attack him was killed. His murderous nature was heavy, and many people called him the #1 god of slaughter under the Celestial Gate sect master. However, the most notorious disciple under Lin Feng's tutelage in Tianhuang mainland was undoubtedly Shi Tianhao. The number of demon race that he had killed, and even filled his stomach, was most likely more than those who had died in the hands of Wang Lin. Shi Tianhao looked at the vast world in front of him, took a deep breath, stretched his back, and his eyes shone brightly. Tunten, the little Taotai, did the same thing. The two of them released their divine senses at the same time, and began to search the surroundings, leaving Wang Lin and the others speechless. Lin Feng smiled and knocked their heads. Let's get down to business first. You guys can play later. He swallowed his saliva and said, looking at the surrounding terrain, this is the territory of the great golden-winged Peng race. However, it's still a long way from their ancestral land. It would be great if we can catch a lone great golden-winged Peng. They had left the void battlefield and broken through the domain space to descend into Tianhuang mainland. They didn't come from the constant domain passage of the Divine Land, so they were now in the hinterland of Tianhuang mainland. The current leader of the great golden-winged Peng race was called Thunder Abyss Golden Peng. He was also the great sage Golden Peng who had schemed to refine the dark flower of Yudu in the cloud forest world. Lin Feng thought of something and said, follow me. He waved his sleeves and brought everyone along. They broke through the void and crossed the endless space in a few steps. When they regained their footing, a huge swamp appeared in front of them. Shi Tianhao took a look and shook his head. I've never been to this place before. Tunten observed carefully and tilted his head to recall for a long time. Then he said hesitantly, this place seems to be called Scenic Cloud Swamp. When I was very young, before my corporeal body was destroyed, I passed by this place with my father. He warned me not to get close, saying that this was the territory of the nine-headed neonate. Lin Feng understood. According to the legends, there was a nine-headed monster snake, a monster of water and fire. It could spit water and fire, and its cries were like the cries of a baby. Thus, it was called the nine-headed neonate. It was a very active great demon thousands of years ago, and had participated in the war between the two worlds. This demon had no kin, and was a lone ranger. However, it was a great demon of the Star Soul Unity realm back then. It didn't die after the war and lived in seclusion. It wasn't as active as before. However, ever since the news of the enchantress and great sage Golden Peng obtaining the dark flower of Yudu spread, this demon reappeared in Tianhuang mainland. Although the nine-headed neonate great sage wasn't one of the 10 saints of the demon race, that was because he spent most of his time cultivating in seclusion, and didn't show himself easily. In terms of ability, he surpassed most of the 10 saints of the demon race. The so-called 10 Saints of the Demon Race was the name given to the 10 most active great demons in Tianhuang mainland in recent years. It didn't mean that they were the 10 strongest great demons. Just like in the vast land of the Divine Continent before the changes caused by Lin Feng, if the same standards were used to rank the human race's 10 venerables, not to mention Lord Tai, even Yan Nanlai and Xian Longxing probably wouldn't be included. Relatively speaking, the more active experts are Emperor Qin Stonefeather, Emperor Zhou's Liang Pan, Reincarnation Sects Shi Tianfang and Mo Shuluo, the Northern Militant Court's first Chan Yu and them, and not a single person from the Void Temple will be included. The 10 Saints of the Demon Race were the Enchantress, Purple Sea Dragon King, Golden Peng Great Sage, Golden Crow Great Sage, Taotai Great Sage, Qiongqi Great Sage, Tao Great Sage, Nine-Tailed Celestial Fox Great Sage, Xianming Great Sage, and Lu Yuan Great Sage. Among them, the first 9 all had their kin. Only the last, Lu Yuan Great Sage, was a Lu Yuan who had attained the Tao. He had the head of a tiger and the body of an ape. His eyes were as bright as the sun and moon, and his feet could step on 1,000 mountains. The great sage Lu Yuan was also the most disliked figure among the 10 sages of the demon race. His wild nature was difficult to tame, and he was extremely combative. He enjoyed challenging other great demons in order to improve himself in battle. He was also very good at finding opponents, and he specifically looked for great demons that seemed slightly stronger than him, but not too much stronger. Therefore, he had a bad reputation in Infinite Wilderness. However, his abilities were indeed outstanding. In the past, when he challenged Purple Sea Dragon King and Golden Peng Great Sage before he obtained Yudu Minghua, they were both evenly matched. Recently, the 10 Saints of the Demon Race only existed in name. Golden Crow Great Sage had entered the Divine Land in the early years, and was suppressed by Lin Feng. Great Sage Qiongqi's entire race had submitted to Golden Peng Great Sage. As for that loathsome Lu Yuan, he had also gone missing a few years ago. However, the Enchantress and Golden Peng Great Sage had reappeared, and their abilities had greatly increased. This made all the demons in Tianhuang mainland raise their eyebrows. Even though Purple Sea Dragon King, who had always been on par with them, kept a low profile, no one dared to look down on him, be it in Tianhuang mainland or the Divine Land. That was because behind Purple Sea Dragon King stood the primordial heavenly dragon race. The dragon race occupied one of the 7 seas of heaven, primordial 7 seas, the mysterious sea. Most of the strong practitioners of the dragon race lived in the mysterious sea and rarely went out. Only Purple Sea Dragon King was active in Tianhuang mainland as their representative. Even though they kept a low profile, now that the Yudu race had completely disappeared, the dragon race became the strongest race in Tianhuang mainland. They were even stronger than the combination of the phoenix and the divine Wutong tree. In recent years, not only was the Divine Land in turmoil because of the rise of Xianmen Tianzong, Tianhuang mainland wasn't peaceful either. The dragon race also gradually had the intention to make a move. Similarly, many hidden great demons like Jiao also started to become active. Outside the Divine Land, the situation in Tianhuang mainland was also changing rapidly. It was too much for the eyes to take in. However, with Lin Feng's current cultivation, he didn't really care about Jiao Great Sage. Unless his abilities changed from Jiao Great Sage to Ying Huang, who had the ability to unify Tianhuang mainland, then Lin Feng would have to pay attention. The space in front of him shook slightly, and a tall figure walked out of it. He was dressed in white scale armor, and his facial features were the same as Lin Feng himself, but there were 2 white horns on his head. Those were the horns of the dragon race. It was Lin Feng's own Brontosaurus clone. When his eyes opened and closed, 4-colored lightning could be faintly seen flashing, shocking the surroundings. After returning from the spirit sea to the boundless universe, Brontosaurus's clone set off to Tianhuang mainland while Lin Feng's main body dealt with the matters in the Divine Land. Lin Feng had left marks on the souls of the top direct disciples in his sect, and that was a long time ago. Now that Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and the rest had all proven their primordial spirit Tao, this task would naturally be handed over to them. There was no need for Lin Feng to worry about it personally. Brontosaurus's clone had already followed the marks all the way to scenic Cloud Swamp. Zhou Yunsong's lamp was not extinguished, and he did not show any signs of weakness. Therefore, Brontosaurus's clone was not in a hurry to make a move. He only monitored and waited for Lin Feng's main body to arrive before striking with lightning speed. Lin Feng's main body and Brontosaurus's clone looked at each other and nodded together. Brontosaurus's clone disappeared, and Lin Feng's main body descended to scenic cloud swamp below. The lake water naturally parted, and did not obstruct Lin Feng in the slightest. He went all the way to the bottom of the lake. It was only then that a certain existence at the bottom of the lake was suddenly startled. It looked in shock at Lin Feng, who had suddenly appeared in front of it. It was a strange snake with 9 necks. The snake's mouth spat out een water and een fire. The een water dyed the great swamp black, and the een fire burned fiercely in the water without being affected at all. It looked extremely strange. The strange snake's 9 mouths let out a baby-like cry at the same time. It was the 9-headed fierce beast sage. Although he lived in seclusion in infinite wasteland and rarely came out, the 9-headed fierce beast sage still recognized Lin Feng at a glance. He did not waste any more words. The 9 snake heads hissed together, and a huge array suddenly appeared under him. Countless mysterious and strange runes emerged. Lin Feng's eyes flashed slightly, and he instantly saw through the layers of runes. He saw that the 9-headed fierce beast sage was trying to teleport himself, and the small world buried at the bottom of the lake. This dignified demon sage of the astral soul realm seemed to be guarding this small world of consciousness. Lin Feng's divine perception swept over, and his expression became slightly strange. A cicada shedding its carapace. Zhou Yunsong was not in the small world, but Lin Feng found something interesting in it. It turned out that Golden Cicada had also discovered the mark that Lin Feng had left on Zhou Yunsong's divine soul. So he had used his own secret technique to try to erase the mark. However, although Golden Cicada had tried his best to overestimate Lin Feng, he did not expect that Lin Feng's divine powers and dermic powers were equally unique. The divine soul mark that had been erased had been transferred to another treasure that Golden Cicada valued. And because of Golden Cicada's secret technique, it had been even more hidden. So Golden Cicada had not discovered it. In the end, Lin Feng had followed it all the way here. Although he did not find his grand disciple, he had blocked the 9-headed fierce beast sage and the treasure here. Chapter 892. Golden Cicada was a great ancient demon, and had reached the Dharma-ending realm. His magical powers were vast, but what really concerned Lin Feng was his innate magical power, cicada shedding, which was a bit of a headache. In particular, Golden Cicada cultivated the Buddhist Dharma and comprehended the Buddhist Bright Samsara method, which combined with his cicada shedding, making it even harder for him to die. In Lin Feng's opinion, this bastard was more like a cockroach than a cicada. His cultivation was indeed extraordinary. The Dharma power imprint that Lin Feng had left on Zhou Yunsong's divine soul, when he was in the primordial spirit incarnation realm, had been forcibly erased by him. However, Golden Cicada had still underestimated Lin Feng. Although the Dharma power imprint had been removed from Zhou Yunsong's divine soul, it had been transferred to another treasure beside Golden Cicada's hand at that time. This treasure doesn't belong to the 9-headed snakelet. Its original owner is also that old cicada. I can still find him by following the clues of this treasure. Lin Feng thought to himself. With a wave of his Dharma power, he had already sealed the vast scenic cloud swamp, preventing the 9-headed snakelet great sage from leaving. He stretched out his hand and pinched the small world of consciousness in his palm. As for the 9-headed snakelet great sage, he would leave it to Wang Lin and Shi Tianhao to deal with. This demon was fierce. Seeing that it was trapped, it immediately changed its shape, distorting the void. It looked like it was still its original size, but in fact it had become extremely huge. Without distorting the space, the entire scenic cloud swamp might not be able to contain it. Of the 9 snake-like heads, 7 of them opened their bloody mouths. However, they didn't spit out een water or een fire. Instead, they glowed with starlight. Each head had a strange, resplendent rune that looked like a star in the sky. Wang Lin and Shi Tianhao looked at each other. Oh, this demon has refined 7 stars? When demons cultivated and reached the immortal demon soul realm, they had an endless lifespan and a powerful demon soul. After that, if he successfully condensed the primordial true spirit, he He could use the primordial true spirit as a foundation to refine the stars in the sky and guide the power of the stars into his body, making his strength stronger and stronger. When a star was completely sacrificially refined, the great sage of the demon clan would try to move the stars in the sky and completely merge with their own immortal demon soul. If successful, the star soul would be united, and they would be successfully promoted to the third level of the immortal demon soul. After successfully refining a star and fusing it with the demon soul, a great demon at the realm of star soul, as one would be able to refine even more stars. With every additional one, the power of the divine ability would naturally increase. Between stars, there was a difference in the quality of power. Therefore, it did not mean that the more stars one refined, the more invincible one would be. It also depended on the specific star that was refined. The quality of the 7 stars of the 9-headed fierce beast great sage was not bad. Therefore, when the 7 stars gathered, their demonic power would be very strong. From the looks of it, if he could refine 9 stars, one for each of his 9 heads, his demonic power would grow to a new level. Perhaps he would then have the ability to go through tribulations. After recognizing Lin Feng, the 9-headed fierce beast great sage naturally did not dare to hold back. As soon as he came up, he was ready to risk his life. The 7 stars that he had refined were activated together, and the majestic power disrupted time and space. Third senior brother, help me hold the line. As Shi Tianhao spoke, he had already gone up to meet the 9-headed fierce beast great sage. Wang Lin nodded calmly and stared coldly at the 9-headed fierce beast great sage. Leaving his 2 disciples to play with the 9-headed fierce beast great sage, Lin Feng's attention was on the small world of consciousness that he had collected. In the small world, there was a huge magic formation. This magic formation was quite strange. It flashed with rolling Buddhist light and emitted the fragrance of sandalwood. There were also countless Buddhist chants sounding out from it. However, the pattern of the magic formation was overflowing with demonic aura. There was a square in the center of the magic formation, and 4 triangular things extended out from it. They were like 4 thin cicada wings, and the pointed points gathered together to form a structure that looked like a pyramid. The center of the cicada wings was filled with golden mist, and it was impossible to see what was placed in this square tower. Lin Feng's heart stirred slightly. He turned to look at the 9-headed fierce beast great sage, who was fighting fiercely with Shi Tianhao. With all 7 stars, the 9-headed fierce beast great sage seemed to have gained the upper hand. However, this did not concern Lin Feng. What attracted Lin Feng's attention was that in the middle of the battle, a figure flashed and joined forces with the 9-headed fierce beast great sage to fight against Shi Tianhao. It was a tall Buddha with an ancient face. At this moment he was glaring at Meng Qi. He held a monk's staff in his hand, and a string of prayer beads hung around his neck, which were actually strung together by the skulls of 9 different races. Buddha rays shot out from the top of the Buddha's head and condensed into a huge Tathagata's Dharmakaya, sitting on a lotus flower. In front of the lotus flower, there was a moon wheel and a throne carried by 8 horses. The Buddha held the Rui bead in his right hand, and a bell in his left. He was none other than Baosheng Tathagata of the 5 Tathagatas. Although he cultivated the most orthodox secret technique of the Buddhist sects, the Buddha scripture, and had even achieved the Tathagata Dharmakaya, reaching the 2nd tier of the Buddhist golden body realm, the fluctuations of his divine consciousness clearly matched that of the 9-headed fierce beast great sage. He was a clone of the 9-headed fierce beast great sage. Just as Golden Cicada had cultivated the 5 Buddha clones, the 9-headed fierce beast great sage who had followed him had also cultivated the Buddhist Dharma, and cultivated a Buddhist Dharma clone. When eminent monks of the Buddhist sects cultivated the 5 directions Rulai Sutra, the minute details would also be different. This was because they had fused their own understanding of the great Tao and Dharma into it. The great sage of the 9-headed fierce beast cultivated the Tathagata Sutra. Although it was not exactly the same as Golden Cicadas, Lin Feng could see traces of the same origin at a glance. In a sense, the great sage Jiuying could be considered a disciple of the Golden Cicada. Interesting. Lin Feng smiled, and turned his attention back to the square steeple in the small world in front of him. His eyes flashed, and his gaze passed through the barrier formed by the cicada's wings, and went straight into the steeple. There was a golden alms bowl. The demonic chi and Buddhist light coexisted in the golden alms bowl, swaying together. The cicada's wings trembled slightly, and a ball of light appeared on it. It was a young monk in gray. Who else could it be but Golden Cicada? He was unable to stop Lin Feng's divine consciousness from penetrating the cicada's wings, but Lin Feng's actions had also alarmed him. Golden Cicada looked at Lin Feng and smiled slightly. Sect Master Lin, I've been rude this time. Please don't blame me. Your grand disciple is safe and sound now. You can rest assured. Lin Feng glanced at him calmly and said, If you have anything to say, Master, let's talk after we meet. I'll go find you soon. Golden Cicada said, Master of the Mystic Gate, please don't make things difficult for the Jiuying. He is only guarding on my orders, and has nothing to do with your grand disciple. He doesn't know my whereabouts. Lin Feng did not answer. He reached out and gently wiped the cicada's wings. Golden Cicada's light and shadow had already disappeared. However, Lin Feng did not destroy the cicada's wings or the array. He carefully observed the golden alms bowl in the steeple of the cicada's wings, and saw that there seemed to be a golden reincarnation of bliss spinning continuously in the golden alms bowl. In the center of the reincarnation was a figure. Lin Feng recognized that figure. It was Marquis Jinghuan, who had been killed by Xiaoyan in the Yingxi. This person still had short hair and an arrogant expression. He seemed to be bitterly resisting the golden reincarnation's erosion. However, he was not ordinary either. He seemed to have figured out the power of the golden reincarnation, and was gradually turning it into his own. This made Lin Feng interested. As far as he knew, Marquis Jinghuan had eaten his fill. As the illegitimate son of Emperor Liangpan of Zhou, he had received many benefits from the great Zhou dynasty. He had also been secretly supported by the radical faction of the Taishu Temple. At the same time, he had also secretly colluded with Golden Cicada. He had also secretly obtained the incomplete inheritance of the ruthless emperor, the last emperor of the ancient human emperor era. However, in the Yingxi, Xiaoyan had destroyed the ruthless emperor's battle robe and destroyed his divine soul and physical body, Yuanying. Several of his avatars had also been destroyed. Monk Baosheng, Golden Cicada's avatar, had intended to rescue him, but he had almost been surrounded by the great Zhou dynasty. Now it seemed that Golden Cicada had long left a trick on him. However, this trick might not have been done out of good intentions. Come to think of it, Golden Cicada had secretly supported him back then with ulterior motives from the beginning. Lin Feng carefully observed the Golden Samsara, and discovered that it seemed to be constantly extracting something from Marquis Jinghuan's remnant soul. As Lin Feng's divine perception swept over, his consciousness communicated with the Golden Samsara. Immediately, many broken images appeared in his mind. In front of him was a middle-aged man who was high-spirited and powerful like a tiger or a wolf. His eyes were filled with the air of a king, as well as endless plundering and greed. He was like a combination of a dragon and a wolf. The middle-aged man held a golden alms bowl in his hand. He carefully analyzed it with his dermic powers. Golden light flashed in the golden alms bowl, but in the center of the golden light was an area that looked like a black hole. That area was silent, but it seemed to contain an extremely terrifying existence. Both the middle-aged man and Lin Feng felt their hearts tremble when they saw it. The middle-aged man stared at the darkness in the golden waves. His eyes revealed a complicated expression. Fear, curiosity, fear, desire, greed, and so on. In the depths of the darkness, there was a faint flicker of light, but it couldn't be seen clearly. But Lin Feng could very clearly feel that feeling of freedom, as if there was nothing he couldn't do. Realization dawned on Lin Feng. So that's how it is. But what's going on with this Marquis Jinghuan Liang'an? Could he be the reincarnation of the ruthless emperor? But he doesn't look like it. He seems more like a bystander watching the ruthless emperor and the golden alms bowl. As he pondered, Marquis Jinghuan's thoughts also entered Lin Feng's mind. He was as crazy and greedy as ever. What made Lin Feng smile was that this person was still thinking about seeking revenge on Xiaoyan. Lin Feng smiled. His divine perception directly communicated with Xiaoyan on Jade Capital Mountain. Xiaoyan was still a little confused. His divine perception connected with Marquis Jinghuan in the golden alms bowl. An image of Xiao Yan also appeared in Marquis Jinghuan's mind. He was shocked at first, but then he laughed sinisterly. Xiao Yan, you didn't expect me to still be alive, did you? You can't kill me. You couldn't kill me last time, but the next time we meet, I will definitely kill you. When that time comes, your women, your treasures, they will all be mine. Although I'm currently trapped by Golden Cicada, I've already found a way to escape. Not only that, but after I escape this time, I can use Golden Cicada's arrangements to completely prove my primordial soul Tao. When the time comes, I'll kill you first. In the future, I will naturally have a chance to seek revenge on Golden Cicada. Unless you hide under your master's protection for the rest of your life, you will only be a stepping stone for my rise. Xiao Yan was stunned. It took him a long time to recover. He burst out laughing and took out 2 rag-like items. When Marquis Jinghuan saw this, his eyes immediately turned bloodshot. He roared anxiously. You, Xiao Yan chuckled. He held one in each hand and waved it gently at Marquis Jinghuan. It was the remains of the ruthless emperor's battle armor. Chapter 893. Xiao Yan had a wicked sense of humor. He grabbed 2 pieces of the ruthless emperor's battle armor and shook them at Marquis Jinghuan who, angering him to the point of vomiting blood. That was the treasure he'd used to build his family, the foundation of his life. At the same time, it was also Marquis Jinghuan's most intimate treasure. His feelings towards the ruthless emperor's battle armor were completely different from other magic treasures. There was a mysterious spiritual connection between him and the ruthless emperor's battle armor. And this connection became increasingly stable and clear as his cultivation increased. The ruthless emperor's teachings and martial arts divine arts he learned through the ruthless emperor's battle armor also became more complete. It was as if the two had always been one. This made Marquis Jinghuan's ambition grow. He felt that he was the master of this treasure, that he might very well be the reincarnation of the ruthless emperor. He wanted to erase the regrets of his previous life and once again conquer the divine continent. Because the ruthless emperor's battle armor had been too heavily damaged, Marquis Jinghuan who didn't dare to use it carelessly. Instead, he'd gathered a large amount of resources and poured them into the treasure, hoping to restore it as soon as possible. Who knew that in the Battle of Yingxi, it would be destroyed by Xiao Yan's Yinyang Burning Heaven Formation and 4-colored Fire Lotus. For Marquis Jinghuan who, it was a heart-wrenching pain. For a moment, Marquis Jinghuan who even felt that Xiao Yan destroying the ruthless emperor's battle armor was more unacceptable than killing him. Now that Xiao Yan had dangled the remains of the ruthless emperor's battle armor in front of him, he was even more enraged. He almost lost control of his mind and was swallowed by the golden samsara. With great difficulty, Marquis Jinghuan who calmed his mind and gnashed his teeth at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan. Good, very good. Do you think you've won? Once this marquis proves his nascent soul, I'll first refine your yuanying, physical body, and soul into the ruthless emperor's battle armor. I believe it'll be restored to its original state very quickly. I will keep a wisp of your broken soul, so that you can clearly see how I wear the ruthless emperor's battle suit that has refined your nascent soul, and conquer the world and sweep across the world. One day, I will let you see clearly that all of your magical powers will be used by me. I will personally kill your people in Xianmen Tianzong, kill your fellow disciples, and let you see me conquer your woman. Xiao Yan sneered and looked at him with a fierce look. He said cheerfully, "Oh, I'm sorry, but you're destined not to get what you want. My body has already been refined into my soul. You can't escape, you." Marquis Jinghuan's voice came to a screeching halt. He stared at Xiao Yan as if he had seen a ghost. What did you just say? Your primordial spirit." Xiao Yan smiled brightly. "What's the problem?" A taiji diagram appeared on his forehead. Marquis Jinghuan's vision blurred for a moment before he saw a taiji diagram completely made of flames. It stretched across the void, and an incomparably terrifying power seemed to pass through the void. Just by staring at it, he felt a burning pain in his soul. Marquis Jinghuan sucked in a breath of cold air, but he couldn't breathe. After a long while he roared angrily, "Impossible! You were only at the mid-stage of yuanying in the Yingxi. You hadn't even mastered the manifestation of heaven and earth. It's only been a little over 2 years since that time in the Yingxi. Not to mention the fact that you've been in seclusion in the grotto heaven where time is accelerated, even if it's effective. How long have you been in seclusion for? How many times did your Xianmen Tianzong accelerate time in the grotto heaven? Could it be 1,000 times faster? Xiaoyan sneered. Oh, you really have the cheek to say that. You brought so many treasures with you, but I, who was at the mid-stage of yuanying, beat you into such a state. To think that you were still thinking about seeking revenge on me. Are you awake yet? Speaking of which, I have to thank you. It was after that battle with you that I reached the late stage of yuanying and mastered the manifestation of heaven and earth. Marquis Jinghuan's face flushed red. Xiaoyan Yu. What do you mean? Xiaoyan smiled as if nothing had happened. By the way, I'll tell you that among my senior and junior brothers, there are also 3 who have proven their primordial spirit like me. Don't think about them. Marquis Jinghuan's eyes widened. How is that possible? If it had only been Xiaoyan, he could have guessed that Xiaoyan had gotten lucky. But now that he heard that besides Xiaoyan, Zhu Yi Wanglin, and Shi Tianhao had also reached the essence soul stage, Marquis Jinghuan was dumbfounded. Xiaoyan smiled, looking at him rather interestedly. Looks like your current situation isn't that good either. You should worry more about yourself. Don't fail to form your primordial spirit, and instead your soul completely scatters. Moreover, to be honest, even if you reach the essence soul stage, you won't be able to defeat me with one hand. You'd better save it. Xiaoyan looked him up and down and pursed his lips. You weren't even a match for me when I fought your essence soul stage at the late stage of yuanying. My essence soul manifestation. Fighting your essence soul manifestation is pure bullying. I have no interest in that at all. If you can reach the Tao integration realm before I reach the void return realm, then I'll be interested in fighting you again. However, you don't look like someone who has that ability. Marquis Jinghuan, who was in the golden samsara vortex, trembled with anger. He looked at Xiaoyan with trembling lips, unable to speak for a long time. His mind became completely unstable. His remnant soul was constantly being crushed by the golden samsara, and he could no longer maintain it. Large amounts of light rushed out of his body and was absorbed by the golden samsara. Lin Feng didn't pay much attention to the conversation between Xiaoyan and Marquis Jinghuan. His eyes were fixed on the golden alms bowl, and his divine sense was communicating with the golden samsara. He already understood. Golden Cicada wanted Marquis Jinghuan's memories from his previous life. Due to the mystery of reincarnation, these memories were already extremely blurry and difficult to distinguish. It was difficult for outsiders to obtain them even by searching his soul. Even a mighty figure like Golden Cicada, who was well versed in the Buddhist Dharma, couldn't directly extract accurate and clear information. He could only nurture Marquis Jinghuan and let him cultivate in the Buddhist Dharma. Then he would secretly tamper with it. When the time was right, he would strive for success. The mighty middle-aged man with the appearance of a dragon and wolf in Marquis Jinghuan's memories was naturally the last human emperor of the divine land during the primordial human emperor era, the ruthless emperor. Although there were few images of this emperor, Lin Feng had seen him before. This golden alms bowl wasn't originally the ruthless emperor's. Instead, it was an item of the Buddhist sect and not an ordinary Buddhist treasure. In the black area in the center of the light, there was an indistinct figure with a powerful Buddhist dharma and profound intent. Apart from the Buddha who had founded the Buddhist sect, there was no other almighty figure of the Buddhist sect since ancient times. This golden alms bowl was a treasure related to the Buddha. However, for some reason, it had fallen into the hands of the ruthless emperor. The ruthless emperor had refined it with a secret technique in an attempt to solve the mystery of the Buddha going to the Dead Sea. The black area in the center of the light contained great terror in its deathly stillness. It was like the end of the world, where all things returned to nothingness. Combined with the light and shadow of the Buddha, both the ruthless emperor and Lin Feng came to the same conclusion. That was the mysterious Dead Sea. Golden Cicada's plan was the same as the ruthless emperor's. He also wanted to solve the mystery of the Buddha going to the Dead Sea and never returning. He wanted to understand the Dead Sea, the most mysterious of the 7 seas of Tianyuan. This golden alms bowl was something that the Buddha had carried with him in the past. It was more likely that the Buddha had left some clues for his disciples, and it had a faint connection to the Dead Sea. However, after the ruthless emperor's secret technique, Golden Cicada couldn't open the mysteries hidden in the golden alms bowl using ordinary methods. If he tried to open it by force, he was worried that it would affect the original magical effects of the golden alms bowl. That was why he had turned his attention to Marquis Jinghuan. By now, Lin Feng had also understood Marquis Jinghuan's background. He looked at Marquis Jinghuan and shook his head. As expected, he isn't the reincarnation of the ruthless emperor. Instead, he's a strand of primordial spirit separated from the ruthless emperor's battle robe and integrated into a person's divine soul. They reincarnated together and existed specifically to repair the original body. In Marquis Jinghuan's memories, the perspective of the ruthless emperor studying the golden alms bowl had actually belonged to the ruthless emperor's battle robe. His words rang directly in Marquis Jinghuan's mind. Marquis Jinghuan's body trembled violently. He didn't even have time to distinguish Lin Feng's voice. He roared angrily, "Impossible! Impossible! If the ruthless emperor's battle robe's primordial spirit reincarnated, the artifact itself would be an empty shell. This is impossible! Impossible! I'm not. Marquis Jinghuan was in a daze. Although he refused to believe it and kept telling himself that everything Lin Feng said wasn't true, under the pressure of the golden samsara, the ruthless emperor's battle robe was still mysterious even though it had been destroyed. His connection with the ruthless emperor's battle robe had become even closer, allowing him to see his true self with unprecedented clarity. When a Mahayana artifact escaped calamity and reincarnated, it could directly transform into a human, but the artifact itself would become an empty shell. In the past, the ruthless emperor's battle robe was only one step away from becoming a creation artifact. The artifact's primordial spirit no longer manifested and gradually turned into a vast world's will. After the ruthless emperor's death, and his own heavenly will was broken, he tried to separate a strand of his primordial spirit to reincarnate in order to help his main body recover in the future. This strand of primordial spirit fused with someone else's soul and didn't reincarnate alone. Thus, it couldn't be considered escaping calamity or taking over a magpie's nest. The two fused into one and shared the memories of their previous lives. The soul was still a human soul, but it had established a mysterious connection with the ruthless emperor's battle robe. Moreover, it had a natural sense of mission to repair the ruthless emperor's battle robe. This kind of reincarnation didn't just happen in one generation, but from generation to generation. Now he had reincarnated into Marquis Jinghuan, Liang'an, and continued to repair the ruthless emperor's battle robe. This was also why Marquis Jinghuan felt a natural affinity with the ruthless emperor's battle robe. He had thought that he was a destined emperor, who had reincarnated to make up for the regrets of his previous life, and rule the world once more. Who would have thought that he was just a tool used by a magic treasure to repair himself? To put it bluntly, he was just half a clone refined from a magic treasure. This discovery made Marquis Jinghuan feel dizzy for a moment. He felt as if the world was collapsing and his worldview was shattering. Impossible. I'm not. Marquis Jinghuan shook his head stiffly. His eyes were hollow as countless scenes flashed through his mind. Although he was Liang Pan's illegitimate son, he was one of the top experts of the Great Zhou dynasty's younger generation. He was blessed with great fortune, and many times, not only did he escape death, there were also great opportunities waiting for him, making him stronger and stronger. Even the number one holy land in the world, the Taishu Temple, valued him and extended an olive branch to him. The ruthless emperor's martial path, the Tai Emperor's martial path, the Taishu Temple's martial path, and the Great Thunderclap Temple's martial path were all passed down to him. At such a young age, he had conquered cities and conquered lands, becoming the number one person of the Great Zhou dynasty's younger generation. He carried countless treasures with him, and many magic treasures submitted to him, a Yuanian cultivator. It was as if it was the will of the heavens. He took many beauties into his private residence and enjoyed them for himself. If he had to find a place in the world with the most beauties, it would not be the Great Zhou Imperial Palace or the Great Qin Imperial Palace, but his own backyard. The world was vast, and everything he wanted was within his grasp. Even if he could not obtain it for now, he was confident that he would eventually obtain it. What should have been an incomparably clear and real matter suddenly became illusory. Everything, including the meaning of his life, seemed to be in service of one thing: to repair a magic treasure that he had originally viewed as a tool. He was actually that tool. In an instant, Marquis Jinghuan felt as if the entire world before him had become unreal. Chapter 894. Before this moment, Marquis Jinghuan had thought that even if he'd suffered defeat after defeat at the hands of Xianmen Tianzong, even if he'd been slain by Xiao Yan and narrowly escaped death, even if he'd been trapped by Golden Cicada with ill intentions, all of this had been nothing more than a trial on his path of destiny. The more difficult the trial was, the greater his future would be as long as he could overcome this hurdle, and he'd be able to fly higher and further. But now, he only felt that everything in the past had become unreal, as if it were all a dream. After a long period of absent-mindedness, he erupted with hysteria. No. Impossible. All of this is an illusion created by Golden Cicada, not my true past memories. Even if it's true, I can definitely defy the heavens and change my fate. I can change everything. That's right, everything is different now. The ruthless Emperor's battle armor has been completely destroyed. This Marquis's ill-fated fate with the past has been completely severed. From now on, this Marquis's fate is in my own hands. That bullshit ruthless Emperor's battle armor has nothing to do with me. Don't even think about interfering with me. As for the person who destroyed the ruthless Emperor's battle armor, it was the person he hated the most, Xiao Yan. He naturally threw this matter to the back of his mind. Everything is different now. This Marquis has completely broken free from the shackles of the past. My luck will definitely turn for the better. The heavens are with me. This Marquis will definitely change everything. Marquis Jinghuan's eyes were scarlet red. The imperishable imperial flag, the ancient emperor's saber, the frosty moonlight ruler, the god-slaying puppet. I will definitely take back everything that belonged to this Marquis in the past. The Haotian mirror, the immortal dragon city, the grand imperial palace, the immortal heaven sword, the Taishu temple. One day, these treasures will all belong to this Marquis. Yan Mingyue, Long Yi Shaozhen the Flame Fox King, the Black Phoenix. One day, these beauties will all belong to this Marquis. Golden Cicada, Xiao Yan Liangpan, Zhu Honggu, Stonefeather, Yan Nanlai, Quang Heng, Xian Longsheng. Even the Mystic Gates Master Lin Feng. One day, this Marquis will trample all of them under my feet. Marquis Jinghuan repeatedly muttered, one day, one day. One day, Suddenly, his words were stuck in his throat, and he could not continue. He watched in shock as the golden samsara, surrounding him, gradually disappeared. However, not only did he not escape, but his soul was also being worn away along with the golden samsara. Marquis Jinghuan's eyes were filled with horror. He immediately knew that Golden Cicada's secret technique had ended. Originally, when the mystic art ended, he would at most be trapped in the alms bowl. However, Marquis Jinghuan's desperate struggle had caused some changes to the mystic art's ritual. If Golden Cicada had left him alone, he might have been able to resurrect completely with the help of a mystic technique. He might even have had a chance of attaining a primordial soul. But before this, his state of mind had been in chaos, and he had completely lost control of himself. Instead, it had led to a change in the secret art that had occurred beyond his expectations. At this moment, Marquis Jinghuan's remnant soul was actually gradually being assimilated by the golden alms bowl. Although he had not died, his life was worse than death. He could not leave this golden alms bowl for the rest of his life, but he was not the artifact spirit of the alms bowl, and could not control it. He was simply bound to the alms bowl, and had to listen to the control of the alms bowl's master. No. Marquis Jinghuan was finally afraid. Because he had been assimilated by the golden alms bowl, his soul was rapidly recovering. However, his cultivation would remain at its current state for the rest of his life. After regaining his perception of the outside world, Marquis Jinghuan immediately saw Lin Feng. Just as he was about to speak, Lin Feng did not even look at him. With a wave of his sleeve, He put away the golden alms bowl. All that was left was Marquis Jinghuan's anguished wail. After Lin Feng had seen the image of the ruthless emperor studying the alms bowl through the golden alms bowl, he had put it away. He had never taken Marquis Jinghuan to heart. To him, Marquis Jinghuan was just a backup item for his disciple. So although he knew about Marquis Jinghuan's situation, he did not care. When he returned to the mountain and finished exploring the mysteries of the golden alms bowl, he would toss the treasure and Marquis Jinghuan over to Xiaoyan, so that Xiaoyan could slowly play with them. However, when the time came, Xiaoyan would probably not be interested. Perhaps he would be tossed to the younger disciples? Then Lin Feng would not care. In any case, this guy would not be able to overturn the heavens. After putting away the golden alms bowl, and the cicada wings that golden cicada had used to set up the array, Lin Feng pondered for a moment and nodded in satisfaction. Although it was still not easy to find golden cicada, it would also be difficult for him to escape this time. He turned to look at the other side and saw that Shi Tianhao was already fighting with the great sage Jiuying. This great demon was truly extraordinary. His demonic power and magical abilities were astonishing. In the heat of the battle, he was able to suppress Shi Tianhao, who had just entered the primordial soul realm. Demons did not refine Dharma treasures. Their true forms were their best weapons. This was especially true after they cultivated to the primordial true spirit realm, and became more closely integrated with heaven and earth. When they revealed their true forms, their strength would most likely surpass that of human cultivators of the same realm. When human cultivators cultivated to the Dharma body of the void return realm, they pursued a world of their own. Compared to the original boundless world, this world was still the beginning. However, just like how humans in the mortal world created all kinds of tools and weapons to fight against ferocious beasts, human cultivators could control Dharma treasures. With a handy Dharma treasure, they would not be afraid of great demons of the same realm. The power of the Dharma treasure depended on the power of the Dharma treasure. Sometimes, the combination of human and Dharma treasures would boost each other's Dharma power, producing an effect that was greater than two. Of course, there were also human cultivators with powerful magical powers who could defeat great demons of the same realm empty-handed. They could even challenge great demons of a higher realm than them. However, such cases were relatively rare. In the end, the outcome of the battle depended on the specific situation, and could not be generalized. However, Lin Feng's disciples were all strong in the face of strong opponents. Shi Tianhao was also very experienced in fighting with demons. Although it was dangerous to fight with the nine-headed fierce beast sage, the latter had to be careful. In fact, the nine-headed fierce beast sage was even more shocked. Although he recognized Lin Feng, he did not know much about Shi Tianhao. The battle on Mount Shu in the Divine Land had been earth-shattering. Many great demons of the vast land of infinite wilderness had been alarmed, so it was impossible for them not to pay attention to it. However, it was difficult for the demons to obtain information about the specific process of the battle on Jade Capital Mountain. Therefore, when the nine-headed fierce beast sage saw that Shi Tianhao, who was only at the primordial spirit incarnation realm, was so fierce that he could fight head-on with the star soul integration realm, the nine-headed fierce beast sage could not help but tremble. Wang Lin held the Xiantian God-sealing banner, and watched silently from the side, which already put pressure on the nine-headed fierce beast sage. Even if Lin Feng was not looking in his direction, the nine-headed fierce beast sage was still trembling. Now that Lin Feng had put away the golden alms bowl, and looked over, the nine-headed fierce beast sage's heart sank even more. Capture him, and let him be your practice partner in the future. Now let's go find that old man, Golden Cicada. Lin Feng smiled slightly. His fingers formed a sword, and a heaven-punishing sword chi shot out. Shi Tianhao immediately retreated. The nine-headed fierce beast sage wanted to escape, but the gray sword aura was already in front of him. The ferocious and murderous sword that could destroy everything terrified the nine-headed fierce beast sage, who had always been cruel. The nine-headed fierce beast sage let out a shrill howl. 7 stars surged together, trying to gather together to resist. But Lin Feng's seemingly unhurried movements were already in front of him in an instant, and his sword pierced through a star. Although the star had been refined by the nine-headed fierce beast sage, and merged with his own demon soul, It was still a star. How magnificent was the power of a star! But when Lin Feng stabbed it with his sword, the star instantly dimmed like a small flame that flickered and then went out. Lin Feng's sword pierced through the star without the slightest hindrance. It pointed at one of the nine-headed fierce beast sage's snake-like heads. The nine-headed fierce beast sage's original form was powerful and had an extremely strong defense. Previously, Shi Tianhao had only been able to leave a slight wound on the nine-headed fierce beast sage with the divine light of finality, or by stimulating his physical body to stab with the stone sword. But now, Lin Feng's sword directly pierced through the head. The sword aura continued downward and pierced through the snake's long neck. The other 8 heads of the nine-headed fierce beast sage howled in unison. Although there was only a small bloody hole in the head that had been pierced, it seemed to have lost all its vitality. It hung limply like a broken rag doll. And this was because Lin Feng's sword momentum had not been completely exhausted. Otherwise, the sword aura would have pierced the nine-headed fierce beast sage's abdomen directly. Even if he did not die, he would be half dead. Lin Feng wielded his sword with his right hand and reached out with his left hand. He had already grasped the Duda doppelganger that the nine-headed fierce beast sage had refined. Although I don't know why your real body and doppelganger are together, it's a good opportunity for me to catch them all in one fell swoop. Lin Feng said lightly. I can see through most of the mystery of Golden Cicada's cultivation of Buddhist Dharma with his demon body, but there are still some tricks that I don't understand. I can lend them to you to take a look. I don't want to be ruthless. Otherwise, I would have cut off 8 of your heads and left only 1. You'd better calm down. The nine-headed fierce beast sage fell silent. After a long while, a voice came through his divine sense. I don't know where Master is. I don't need you to know. Lin Feng said indifferently. He captured the nine-headed fierce beast sage along with his doppelganger, and then left scenic Cloud Marsh with Shi Tianhao, Wang Lin, and the others. While trying to figure out the nine-headed fierce beast sage's Dharma doppelganger, Lin Feng followed the cicada-winged golden alms bowl to search for Golden Cicada. The more he learned about the Dharma doppelganger of the demon clan, the deeper Lin Feng's understanding of Golden Cicada. Among the human cultivators or the great sages of the demon clan in the Dharma-ending realm, there were definitely people who could defeat Golden Cicada in terms of actual combat. But in terms of the ability to resurrect the dead, combined with the Buddhist Dharma, the way of karma, and his own innate magical powers, Golden Cicada was definitely one of the top few experts of the same realm in strength. In other words, among opponents of the same strength, Golden Cicada was one of the most difficult to kill. Some people could defeat him, but defeating him did not necessarily mean that they could kill him. To kill him, they either had a unique technique that could restrain his cicada's shedding of carapace, or they had to crush him with a considerable gap in strength. Otherwise, he would most likely escape. But for Golden Cicada, who was in the Dharma-ending realm, there were really not many people who could crush him. For Lin Feng, such an opponent was not difficult to deal with, but rather annoying. As he flew, Lin Feng suddenly received a voice transmission using Dharma power. It was from Tuntun's father, the Taotai sage. Sect Master Lin, Golden Cicada has spread the news that you've entered the infinite wilderness. The entire infinite wilderness knows that you've come. I'm afraid that many big demons will come looking for you. Lin Feng chuckled. He had already expected such a situation when he failed to stop Golden Cicada the first time. It was actually not bad for him. It would make it easier for him to find Golden Cicada. Chapter 895. I know what happened. Taotai Great Sage, thank you for your kindness. Please help me spread the news. Lin Feng was grateful that Taotai Sage was willing to send a message. After ending the communication with Taotai Sage, Lin Feng continued to search for Golden Cicada by following the cicada-winged golden alms bowl. As expected, Lin Feng was gradually approaching the border of the Spirit Abyss Mountain. The Spirit Abyss Mountain was a sacred land of infinite wasteland. It was extremely suitable for the demon race to cultivate. The demon race that occupied this place was the primordial demonic ape race. The primordial demonic ape race was a powerful race, second only to the primordial celestial dragon race in the ancient primordial era. Like the dragon race, the ape race was also formed from various branches, such as the extreme spirit monkey, Zhuyan demonic ape, heaven demonic ape, and so on. In the early ancient times, the master of the dragon race, Jua Huangxianshang, died. The experts of the dragon race also died in battle. The dragon race fell into unprecedented weakness. It was then that the primordial demonic ape race rose, gradually becoming the new monarch of the demon race in Infinite Wasteland. Afterwards, in the middle of the primordial age, the ape race produced a spiritual divine monkey, known as the Divine Abyss Spiritual Divine Monkey. Its strength was unparalleled, and it reigned supreme. It was one of the 3 strongest saint kings in the history of the heaven primal world, the Extreme King Divine Abyss. It was also during the era of Ji Huangxinyuan's rule that the primordial demonic ape race reached its peak and ran amok in the great heaven primordial world. Ever since ancient times, the barren ancient star sea had fallen into the hands of the human race. It was only during the reign of the Extreme Emperor's Divine Abyss that the human race had reclaimed it. That battle was the most one-sided battle with the greatest disparity in victory and defeat in all of the wars between the 2 realms. It wasn't until the war between the 2 worlds in the Middle Era that the Extreme Emperor's Divine Abyss fell, that the race of the primordial devil apes gradually went downhill. They were surpassed by the Yudu race that rose up later, and the dragon race that concealed their strength. In the recent thousands of years, just like how the dragon race had mostly lived in seclusion in the profound sea, the primordial demonic ape race had mostly lived in seclusion in their ancestral land, the Spirit Abyss Mountain. Only in the past few years had they reappeared in the world on a large scale, causing the heavenly desolate continent to surge. Golden Cicada had been famous for a long time, and had been active since ancient times. The demon emperor who ruled over vast Tianhuang continent at that time was Ji Huangxinyuan. The Golden Cicada Sage was one of the great demons under Ji Huangxinyuan's command. With this connection, Golden Cicada would naturally choose a secluded place within the spiritual abyss mountain sphere of influence. Firstly, he was familiar with the land, and secondly, he was familiar with the people. However, he would definitely not get too close to the Spirit Abyss Mountain. After all, the current leader of the Spirit Abyss Mountain was a Tongtian demonic ape. He had never been on good terms with the ape, and had even chased him off the Spirit Abyss Mountain in the past. Although he was chased down the mountain, he still had people he was familiar with in the ape clan, so he could still find a secret place to hide outside of the Spirit Abyss Mountain, and within the ape clan's sphere of influence. Now, although the Golden Cicada Sage had also reached the Dharma-ending realm, he was still alone. It would be very difficult for him to fight the Tongtian demonic ape head-on. However, this old cicada had always been crafty. He knew that Lin Feng could vaguely sense his location, so he had the intention of using Lin Feng to kill him with a borrowed knife. He wanted to make Lin Feng stir up trouble in the Spirit Abyss Mountain. Although the Tongtian demonic ape was not on good terms with him, the relationship between the primordial demonic ape clan and the human clan was even worse. When they saw Lin Feng, the demonic ape clan would probably not want to join forces with Lin Feng to deal with him. Instead, they would first kill Lin Feng, who dared to go up the mountain. When Shi Tianhao was in vast Tianhuang continent, he had been besieged by a few 6-horned divine apes. In the end, he killed a few of them. One of them was a late-stage demon king 6-horned divine ape. It was a rising star of the demonic ape clan in the Spirit Abyss Mountain, and was highly regarded by the elders. This matter caused quite a stir in the Spirit Abyss Mountain. Lin Feng and Shi Tianhao were also aware of it. Therefore, it was definitely not a smooth journey to the Spirit Abyss Mountain. Of course, Golden Cicada also had to take precautions in case Lin Feng and the demonic apes of the Spirit Abyss Mountain temporarily joined forces to deal with him first. Therefore, he also revealed Lin Feng's whereabouts and attracted other great demons to the Spirit Abyss Mountain to cause trouble for Lin Feng. Not to mention others, the Dragon Clan, which was the strongest race in vast Tianhuang continent, and was even more powerful than the demonic ape clan, had a bad relationship with Lin Feng. In the beginning, it was because Xianmen Tianzong and the Great Qin dynasty were on good terms. The Great Qin dynasty's creation Dharma treasure, the immortal dragon city, was first made from one of the ancestors of the Dragon Clan, ancestral dragon Song Ning. This was a great humiliation to the Dragon Clan. In the previous war between the two worlds, The Dragon Clan knew that the Great Qin dynasty had reclaimed the immortal Dragon City. The Dragon Clan had specifically targeted the Great Qin dynasty. If not for the other human experts coming to help, West Hill City would have been almost destroyed. However, the immortal Dragon City, which had not been completely refined, was heavily damaged. After the war, the Great Qin dynasty had to invest large amounts of resources to repair it. Even the Dragon Clan in the Taishu Temple's Grand Supreme Dragon Pond was quite dissatisfied with the Great Qin dynasty. Xianmen Tianzong and the Great Qin dynasty were on good terms. It seemed that Jieyu, White Light, and the others had been together for a long time, so they could adjust their mentality. However, while the Dragon Clan in vast Tianhuang continent hated the Great Qin dynasty, they did not have a good impression of Lin Feng and his disciple. Later on, Lin Feng had taken over the Scarlet Thunder Dragon King's body and refined it into Brontosaurus's doppelganger. Just as the Dragon Clan in vast Tianhuang continent ended, the news was secretly spread to vast Tianhuang continent by someone with ulterior motives. At that time, some Dragon Clan experts expressed their desire to take revenge. However, because Lin Feng was in the Divine Land, they were worried that they would be besieged by human experts, so they held back. Today, Lin Feng had come to vast Tianhuang continent. Naturally, they had to find trouble with Lin Feng. The situation had become complicated, but Lin Feng was in a good mood. Although many people would be involved, whether it was the Dragon Clan entering the Spirit Abyss Mountain or the Ape Clan dealing with him, it would actually be more beneficial for him to force Golden Cicada out of his hiding place. Golden Cicada was also well aware of this. Everyone had their pros and cons. As for who would have the last laugh, it would depend on their own means. Although it was said that two worlds were facing each other now, with the human race and the demon race standing side by side. In fact, dating back to the primordial era, it should be said that hundreds of races existed side by side, or even thousands of races. At the end of the day, different demon races were also different races. It was just that their cultivation methods were the same, and they were at odds with the human race. Therefore, after the ancient times, the medieval times, and even the present era, the concept of the demon race gradually came into being. However, the wariness and personal enmity between them would only be more serious than between the major forces of the human race. To the human race, the demon race could be said to be full of treasures. Many of the raw materials, or embryos of Dharma treasures, were even taken from the true bodies of the demon race. However, on the other hand, after devouring the essence spirits, flesh and souls of human mighty figures and digesting them, it was also a great supplement for the demon race experts. To the demon race experts, devouring and refining the flesh, blood, and souls of other demons was also a great supplement. It was not only the Taotai that devoured other demons. The demon race often attacked each other, but most of the other demons' digestive abilities were not as outstanding as the Taotai. For many great demons, Golden Cicada's flesh and blood were very attractive, because Golden Cicada's supernatural power was very unique. Although the cicada's shedding of carapace was not like Lin Feng's mysterious heavenly escape, or Taishu Temple's universal Taishu mystic light, which could completely avoid the Dharma-ending tribulation, it was also quite mysterious. Because of this supernatural power, Golden Cicada, who had completely passed the initial tribulation and reached the Dharma-ending realm, was one of the people who could withstand the Dharma-ending tribulation the most among the experts of the same realm. Mighty figures whose combat strength was above his might not be able to withstand as many Dharma-ending tribulation as he did. For Golden Cicada, his strongest combat method was actually to fight with others against the Dharma-ending tribulation. This was his strength, but no matter how much he could resist it, when the Dharma-ending tribulation really came to him, he would not feel good. Therefore, Golden Cicada would not use this method of killing 1,000 people at the expense of 800 people. During the reign of Ji Huang Xinyuan, Golden Cicada had not gone through the tribulation, so it was not very useful for others to devour his flesh and blood, so no one thought about it. But now, Golden Cicada had reached the Dharma-ending realm, and he suddenly became a hot commodity. If he devoured the flesh and blood of a great demon at the peak of the astral soul fusion realm, the success rate and safety of his tribulation would be greatly increased. Or, if he devoured the flesh and blood of a great demon who had survived the tribulation, he would recover from the degeneration tribulation in a very short time, and his demonic power would return to its peak. Naturally, a great demon in the realm of astral soul oneness could not do anything to Golden Cicada, let alone take his flesh and blood. However, other great demons in the realm of Dharma ending had to fight for the welfare of their subordinates. Therefore, Golden Cicada had been in hiding all these years, carefully hiding his whereabouts. He would only appear occasionally to avoid being surrounded and hunted by other great demons. This demon's ability to escape was indeed heaven-defying, and he was also cautious, so he was still alive and well until now. Therefore, Lin Feng was not annoyed by Golden Cicada's revelation that he had come to infinite wilderness. His response was very simple. If you reveal it, I'll reveal it too. He would also spread the news that he was here to find Golden Cicada, and that he had clues to find Golden Cicada. He would announce Golden Cicada's general location to the public. Although there was still a possibility of conflict with other great demons, these great demons could also help him dig out the old cicada that liked to drill into the ground faster. Along the way, he saw a mountain range suddenly appear on the horizon. It was rather special. The top of the mountain and the slopes were pure white, crystal clear and translucent. Upon closer inspection, there were many strange white jades on the surface of the mountain. They were lustrous and dazzling, overflowing with spiritual chi that was intoxicating. At the foot of the mountain was a fiery red, blazing fire chi soared into the sky, like a sea of fire or a sea of magma. It was not a real flame, but the condensation of a mineral vein. The fire elemental spiritual chi was oppressive, and the mineral vein was directly exposed on the surface. It was an extremely high-quality red smelting fire copper mine, with a huge reserve. Red smelting fire copper, dark light enigmatic iron, evil warding purple gold, and other materials were collectively known as the 6 great rare metals of heaven and earth. They were excellent materials for human cultivators to refine artifacts, especially for refining weapons and magic treasures. The red smelting fire copper mine at the foot of this mountain range might not be the largest in the entire heaven primordial world, but its quality was almost the best. Seeing that the mountain was full of white jade, and the mountain range was full of fire copper, Lin Feng immediately understood. So we've arrived at Xiaozi Mountain. Xiaozi Mountain, west of Lingyuan Mountain, was the habitat of the Zhuyan demonic apes among the apes. During a war between the two worlds in the Middle Era, the Shu Mountain Sword sect had ambushed this place for the red smelting fire copper mine of Xiaozi Mountain. The sword ancestor, Ren Changmei, had killed the leader of the Zhuyan tribe at that time with the celestial heavenly sword. In the end, as soon as they retreated, they were chased by Jihuang Xinyuan to Shu Mountain, and were almost annihilated. The Zhuyan tribe had always been a strong tribe among the primordial demonic apes. The current Zhuyan Great Sage was the second in command of the primordial demonic ape tribe. Chapter 896. Lin Feng did not deliberately keep a high profile, nor did he deliberately hide his aura. Along the way, his divine sense kept sweeping the places he passed, searching for Golden Cicada. As soon as he stepped into the boundary of the lesser secondary mountain, the mountain range, which was made of white jade and fiery copper, shook slightly. Then, a huge illusory light shadow shrouded the mountain range. The light shadow looked like an ape, with a white head and red feet, somewhat similar to the color of the lesser secondary mountain. Its 4 crimson limbs propped up on the ground like burning flames. Its body was incomparably huge, as if it could support the heavens and the earth. A pair of crimson eyes flashing with blue light stared silently at Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at him. As expected of the current Zhuyan sage, judging from the fluctuations of his demonic aura, I'm afraid he has already begun to experience the tribulation. I wonder if he has completely completed the first tribulation? It was rumored that when Zhuyan appeared, there would be war. At this moment, Lin Feng could feel a restless aura pervading the air, encouraging all living beings in the world to fight fiercely with each other. This was similar to the power of the Azura Saber's killing intent. However, one was encouraging people to kill each other, while the other was simply fighting. There was a slight difference. However, The bewitching aura exuded by Zhuyan Sage was much thicker than that of the Azura Saber. They were not on the same level at all. Zhuyan Sage stared at Lin Feng and said, "Are you Lin Feng, the master of the divine land of Xianmen Tianzong? Have you come for Golden Cicada?" Lin Feng smiled faintly. "Since Zhuyan Sage already knows, do you have any information for me?" Great Saint Zhuyan cracked his mouth, revealing his snow-white teeth. Although he was just a mass of light and shadow, there seemed to be hot air spewing out from his bloody mouth that could swallow the heavens and devour the earth, making the area around the small mountain even hotter and hotter. "Although you have never participated in the war between the two realms, you are a human after all. Our Zhuyan race has never been on good terms with the human race," the great sage Zhu Yan said through his spiritual consciousness. "However, the human tribe we hate the most is the Mount Shu sword sect. You have broken the fairy heaven sword and flattened Mount Shu. Even though you are fighting among yourselves, we still want to say that we are happy. Golden Cicada is good at hiding. This time, even with the general location provided by your excellency, it won't be that easy to find. I also want to get some flesh and blood from this old friend, to nourish the children of the clan." Lin Feng said calmly, "I destroyed the immortal heaven with my sword to settle the grudge between me and Shushan. I had no intention of doing anything else. If you find Golden Cicada and have news for me, I will save myself some time. If you don't have any news, I will spend more time on my own. Golden Cicada kidnapped my grand disciple while I was in seclusion. I came to Infinite Mainland this time to settle the score with him." Golden Cicada's flesh and blood were mainly for the demon race to undergo the tribulation. It was not very useful for human cultivators. However, just because Lin Feng did not want it did not mean that he would give it to the demon race and let them grow stronger for nothing. The great sage Zhu Yan naturally knew this. When the time came, it would depend on who would come out on top. Moreover, Golden Cicada was not easy to deal with. It would be extremely difficult to deal with this old Ji. After all, the six-horned divine monkey tribe and my Zhuyan race are of the same origin. Your disciple killed the six-horned great sage's grand disciple. There is no need for me to risk my life to avenge him, but I have to give the Tongtian sect an explanation. The great sage Zhu Yan said, "I have long heard that the master of the Xianmen sect is the #1 among the rising human cultivators in the divine land in recent years. Sun-chasing Zhu Yan is untalented, so I would like to have a spar with you. The Blue Sky Dragon King will be here soon. If you defeat me, I will stop him for you and help you find Golden Cicada. If you find Golden Cicada, you will have the priority to deal with him. If you lose, there is no need to say anything else. If you find Golden Cicada, you can take back your grand disciple, but you have to hand Golden Cicada to me." Among the primordial demonic apes, the six-horned divine monkey and the Tongtian demonic ape were very close, but not the Zhuyan demonic ape. The great sage Zhu Yan would not fight to the death with Lin Feng for the sake of a junior like the six-horned divine monkey. Regardless of the outcome, asking Lin Feng to hand over Shi Tianhao would definitely result in a fight to the death. Therefore, the great sage Zhu Yan thought that even if he won, he would not try to ask Lin Feng to hand over Shi Tianhao. To him, Golden Cicada's flesh and blood were much more important. Lin Feng's illustrious reputation in the divine land was not earned with words, but with his fists. Although he rarely set foot in the infinite wilderness, he was equally infamous. In any case, the demon world and the human world had been at war for so many years. Even if they did not personally witness Lin Feng's actual strength, they knew the general strength of the Mount Shu sword sect, as well as the strength of the celestial heaven sword, the Taiyuan Palace, the immortal Dragon City, and the Taishu Temple. If the Tongtian demonic ape, the current leader of the apes, was here, and he was standing on the main peak of the Spirit Abyss Mountain, the ancestral land of the apes, great sage Zhu Yan might have a different opinion. However, the great sage had gone to attack the Taihua Mountain of the Taishu Temple, and had yet to return. Great sage Zhu Yan would naturally not fight to the death with Lin Feng alone. As for the Blue Sky Dragon King, he was the leader of the Blue Dragon tribe of the primordial celestial dragons in the Black Sea. The Blue Dragon tribe and the Brontosaurus had a close relationship. After learning that Lin Feng had come to the infinite wilderness, the Blue Sky Dragon King immediately rushed over. Lin Feng could roughly determine Golden Cicada's location through the Cicada Goldenom's bowl, and Golden Cicada could also roughly determine Lin Feng's location. Otherwise, Golden Cicada would have been surrounded by Great Sage Zhu Yan and the others. As far as Great Sage Zhu Yan knew, the Blue Sky Dragon King was only the vanguard, and the experts of the dragon tribe would come later. After learning that Lin Feng had come to the infinite wilderness, many big demons expressed a warm welcome to him. As soon as Great Sage Zhu Yan finished speaking, the giant ape silhouette that shrouded the sky above the small world mountains suddenly let out a long hiss, and the sky suddenly split open. At the level that Lin Feng and the others were at, the spatial distance was no longer of much significance. Their magical powers were unleashed, and their huge bodies could change tens of thousands of miles, hundreds of thousands of miles, millions of miles, or even tens of millions of miles at will. They could even fill the galaxy and universe with a thought. The immortal dragon city looked like the Great Wall that stretched millions of miles across the void, but in fact, as long as one wanted to, its length could really exceed time and space, with no end. In the eyes of Lin Feng and the others, there was no concept of height and length most of the time. However, now that Great Sage Zhu Yan let out a long hiss, the dark void was revealed. The giant ape silhouette used all four of its claws and climbed up as if stepping on an invisible staircase. Its claws danced with fire, leaving behind flaming footprints that lingered in the void. Lin Feng stared at the staircase that seemed to be completely non-existent, and he had a new concept of height. He felt that Great Sage Zhu Yan was climbing higher and higher, as if he was above the universe and overlooking the world. Is he trying to see who can climb higher than me? Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly when he saw this. In many people's view, this was a way to expose one's own shortcomings and make people laugh at a monkey for being a monkey. But that was because people thought that they were more advanced than monkeys, so they would laugh at monkeys, and the saying that monkeys were crowned as monkeys came about. However, for a big demon like Great Sage Zhu Yan, it was uncertain who was more advanced than who, so he naturally did not feel that there was anything wrong with his behavior. On the contrary, he attached great importance to the battle with Lin Feng, so he used the method that he was best at to increase his chances of winning. Lin Feng naturally understood Great Sage Zhu Yan's thinking. He did not laugh at Great Sage Zhu Yan because of this, but it did not mean that he would compete according to the rules set by Great Sage Zhu Yan. He had no intention of capturing and killing Great Sage Zhu Yan to extort a confession by torture. That would be too much of a waste of time, and it would also be a joke to Golden Cicada. This time, Lin Feng came to the vast land of infinite wilderness alone, and he had no intention of going back quietly. But first he had to find Zhou Yunsong and bring him back. Then, even if it meant going all out, he would wander around the demon realm. Although he knew that Zhou Yunsong was safe and sound at the moment, Golden Cicada could not have kidnapped him, a cultivator of the golden elixir period, to treat him to a meal. How could Lin Feng allow Golden Cicada to make trouble for him? Looking at the invisible stairs and flaming footprints under Great Sage Zhu Yan's feet, Lin Feng already knew the challenge. On the one hand, it was a competition to see who could climb higher in the control of the mysteries of space-time and the changes of magic power. On the other hand, if Lin Feng moved now, the condensed flaming footprints left by Great Sage Zhu Yan in the void would also become an obstacle for Lin Feng. Stepping on the sky and walking in the void seemed simple. A cultivator of the golden elixir period or a demon commander who had formed the demon corps could do it. But when they stepped on the void, it was completely different from what Great Sage Zhu Yan was doing at the moment. Step by step, Great Sage Zhu Yan walked up. Every step seemed to transcend time and space. It was extremely mysterious, as if he was walking on the universe and the river of time. Even some human tribe Dao integration stage cultivators, or demon tribe greater demons who had fused their astral souls into one wouldn't even be able to take a single step forward, let alone compete with him. They could only watch on helplessly as they took a single step forward with nowhere to land. The lingering flaming footprints in the void seemed to be the power of Great Sage Zhu Yan's step. At the moment, they seemed to be condensed and not released, but if the power of any of the footprints really exploded, it would be like the sky and earth collapsing. What Great Sage Zhu Yan meant was a civil competition, not a real fight. But for Lin Feng, a civil competition and a martial competition were the same. There was no difference. He stood calmly in the same place and did not move his feet. He just stretched out his right hand and grabbed the invisible stairs under Great Sage Zhu Yan's feet. Suddenly, the space-bounded domain kept compressing and twisting, as if it had turned into an invisible hand and grabbed the stairs under Great Sage Zhu Yan's feet. It was the heavenly capture technique derived from Lin Feng's heavenly realm barrier technique. After grabbing the stairs, Lin Feng's eyes were as calm as water, as if the river of time was flowing. But at this moment, the river seemed to be flowing slower and slower, as if it had fallen into a state of stagnation. The invisible hand that was grabbing the stairs suddenly emitted a layer of chaotic and hazy brilliance, spreading to the surroundings. Everything became hazy and unclear, as if there was only a dim grayish-white left. It was the celestial ultimate cosmic light. After Lin Feng returned to the void realm, he could also use this technique that exhausted the changes of the Great Way of Time. Being grabbed by the heavenly capture technique that was enhanced with the celestial aura of eternity, the stairs under Great Sage Zhu Yan's feet shook violently, as if they were about to disintegrate into nothingness. In Great Sage Zhu Yan's blood-red eyes, green light surged wildly. In the void, the light shadow of the giant ape that seemed to be stepping on the heavens suddenly began to materialize. It turned out to be his true form. Chapter 897. An invisible giant hand grabbed the spacetime stairway beneath Great Saint Zhu Yan's feet. The chaotic and hazy light of the cosmic pole spread around, and kept extending. Everything in the world that came into contact with this light seemed to lose its color. The drifting clouds in the sky froze, like pieces of rocks suspended in the air. The shining stars in the void above all stopped flashing and maintained their previous appearance, as if the real starry sky had turned into an artificial painting. On the second mountain below, the white jade that was shining with luster also became sluggish. The hot steam from the red smelting fire copper vein at the foot of the mountain also turned into wisps of smoke, but it was like a withered tree trunk growing out of the vein, standing there stiffly. The only thing that moved between heaven and earth was the seemingly invisible stairway beneath Great Saint Zhu Yan's feet. Shrouded by the light of the cosmic pole, and held by Lin Feng's all heavens capture, the originally invisible stairway shook violently, on the verge of disintegration and collapse. The master of the celestial gate deserves his reputation. In Great Saint Zhu Yan's blood-red eyes, blue light surged. He looked up to the sky and roared. The giant ape-like shadow climbing in the sky gradually turned into a solid body, and the earth-shaking violent blood spread. After revealing his true form, Great Saint Zhu Yan's figure shrank a lot. He was a giant ape with a white head and bare feet, and he looked only 100 feet tall. However, that berserk power was shocking. It was as if he could tear the sky apart with his bare hands with just his physical body. Although Shi Tianhao, Wang Lin, and the others were swept up by Lin Feng's supernatural power, they could still see the process of the battle between the two sides. Shi Tianhao's eyes flashed, and he looked up and down at Great Saint Zhu Yan in the void. He is the person with the strongest physical strength out of all of Lin Feng's disciples. Even Xiaoyan, who is also at the primordial spirit stage, refining the two-phase battle turn godstone to reconstruct the body of a primordial spirit stage martial artist. Just based on physical strength, he is also inferior to him. Shi Tianhao, who was in the primordial divinity incarnation realm, could compete with most martial arts experts in the path integration realm, or the great saint of the demon clan who had merged the star soul into one. But at this moment, Great Saint Zhu Yan's physical strength was far above his. Great Saint Zhu Yan revealed his true form. He roared and stomped down with all four limbs, once again stabilizing the invisible space-time stairway. The flaming footprints on the stairway began to explode, one by one, to blow up Lin Feng's light of the cosmic pole, and all heavens capture. This was originally prepared by the great sage Zhu Yan to stop Lin Feng from climbing the stairs, but now he was already very lucky to be able to protect the stairs, so he naturally couldn't care about that anymore. Lin Feng quietly felt the power of Zhu Yan the great sage and nodded slightly. I haven't completely finished the first tribulation, but since the last tribulation, I have returned to the peak state of my current cultivation. If I'm not mistaken, this demon is not far from completing his tribulation. At most, He only needs 1 or 2 more blight tribulations to complete his tribulation. This demon is still holding back a little, but I can roughly estimate it. Without revealing his true form, he is probably about the same as Mount Shu's empty-handed sword Venerable Firmament. After revealing his true form, he can easily defeat Sword Venerable Firmament, an ancient sword Venerable Firmament. Lin Feng calculated in his heart. Even though he has not directly fought with Venerable Swordsman Firmament before, but when he transformed the great immortal thousand phenomenon sword formation into the heaven-punishing sword formation, Venerable Swordsman Firmament tried to stop him, and he activated the Golden Permetha Bridge to intercept him. He still has a general understanding of Venerable Swordsman Firmament's strength. As for the strength of Celestial Dipper Sword Venerable and Celestial Heaven Sword, Lin Feng had a very accurate grasp. Not considering the Dharma-ending tribulation, just comparing divine sense and Dharma power, this demon's true form is similar to the combination of Celestial Dipper Sword Venerable and Celestial Heaven Sword Venerable. If Celestial Dipper Sword Venerable controls the Celestial Heaven Sword Venerable, then this Zhuyan demon is no match. While thinking, Lin Feng's hands did not stop. The light of the cosmic pole was still activated to hold the invisible spacetime stairway. At the same time, rays of 7-colored light flashed on his body and circled around his body. These rays of 7-colored light flowed together to the invisible giant hand and merged with the light of the cosmic pole. The mysterious heavenly release was called an escape technique, but it was not just a teleportation escape technique. It was a technique that deduced the changes of time and space to the highest level, and at the same time, integrated many other great Daos of heaven and earth into it. This technique was used to avoid the Dharma-ending tribulation. When Lin Feng used it, there was a limit to the number of times he could use it. However, it was much simpler to use it to avoid the explosive attack of Zhuyan's flaming footprints. As the 7-colored light moved rhythmically, the explosive power of the flaming footprints all fell into thin air. Zhuyan's eyes widened. It's not just the Tao of spatial transformation. It's not just the Tao of illusory transformation. Even Bai Yulong, who is at the same realm as me, can't avoid it so easily with his innate divine sense. The power of the mysterious heavenly release was not only used for defense, but it was also combined with the light of the cosmic pole. Together, they enhanced the great capture of the heavens, shaking the invisible space-time stairway under Zhuyan's feet. Lin Feng's expression was calm, and his eyes were shining. A large number of runes appeared in the void, enhancing the invisible giant hand that was holding the stairway. Endless runes were attached to the invisible giant hand, emitting layers of brilliance. It made the originally invisible giant hand seem to have become a palm made entirely of light. In the brilliance, a large number of runes and patterns surged, turning into magic formations one after another. They rose and fell, connecting into one. Finally, it seemed as if a huge magic formation was engraved on the palm of light. Life and death, illusory reality, heaven and earth, eternity and instant, yin and yang, light and darkness. 6 powerful conceptions of opposing extremes appeared on the palm at the same time. It was the 6 transformations of life and death of Lin Feng's yin and yang life and death formation. This was because Lin Feng had thoroughly deduced the various changes of the yin and yang life and death formation. He knew it like the back of his hand and integrated it into his own supernatural power. He casually used his supernatural power to transform the formation into a spell, and the yin and yang life and death formation into the yin and yang life and death technique. Li Yuanfang, who was wrapped up by Lin Feng's supernatural power, but was still able to watch the battle, widened his eyes, fascinated. A powerful formation cultivator could casually set up a formation without the help of treasures and terrain. However, the power of a formation that was set up in a hurry was certainly not as good as that of a formation that was meticulously set up. However, this kind of formation generally did not include a powerful formation like the Mountain Gate formation. This was because these formations needed to be driven by the power of heaven and earth to have unpredictable power. It was also for this reason that the yin and yang life and death formation of Xianmen Tianzong and the 9 light sky-shattering formation of the Demon Clan were so precious. To be able to turn such a powerful formation into a spell and set it up casually, It was not only a matter of having a high cultivation and powerful supernatural power, but also a great attainment in formation. As far as Li Yuanfang knew, from ancient times to the present, there were no more than 5 people who could casually set up such a powerful formation like the yin and yang life and death formation. Today, except for Lin Feng, there was no one who could do it. In the past, Taiwan Venerable of the Taishu Temple was able to turn his own 7 lights defensive formation into 7 lights defensive technique, which was already the most amazing performance at that time. However, the 7 lights defensive formation was inferior to the yin and yang life and death formation of the Supreme Void. Regardless of the comprehensive strength and cultivation, at least in the attainment of formation, Lin Feng was sure to win. Looking at the scene in front of him, Li Yuanfang felt dazzled and intoxicated. 6 changes and 3 laws, reversal of 2 poles qi. Lin Feng's calm voice echoed between heaven and earth. The changes of yin and yang life and death formation in the shining big hand suddenly produced a huge force of reversal and distortion. The invisible space-time stairs that had been fixed by the real body of Zhu Yan suddenly shook again at this moment, shaking incessantly as if it would shatter at any moment. Zhu Yan stood on the invisible space-time stairs, staring at Lin Feng below. Yes, rumor has it that although he combined the power of many treasures to attack Shu Mountain, he himself, except for using the strange 7-colored treasure light escape method to avoid the Dharma-ending tribulation of Tiangang of Shu Mountain, he almost only used swordsmanship to fight against the swords of Shu Mountain. Zhu Yan sighed. Although he had not exerted his full strength, he knew that Lin Feng had not exerted his full strength either. Not to mention whether Lin Feng had other hidden means. The whole Tianyuan world knew that at least Lin Feng still had the divine light of creation. Suppressing the space-time stairs actually could not fully reflect the power of the real body of Zhu Yan. In actual combat, there were infinite changes. But similarly, if this was a real combat, Lin Feng's heaven-punishing sword qi would directly stab at him. Master of the Celestial Gate, good move. Zhu Yan admits defeat. Zhu Yan shook his head, and did not continue to fight to the end. Otherwise, if everyone fought with all their strength and still could not defeat Lin Feng, it would be really embarrassing if Lin Feng directly broke the stairs and threw him down from the void. After saying this, Zhu Yan directly dispersed the invisible stairs. Lin Feng did not go too far. With a wave of his robe sleeve, all kinds of magic powers were withdrawn together. The invisible big hand flashing with layers of light instantly disappeared. Zhu Yan's real body of Zhu Yan also disappeared, and the huge shadow of the giant ape reappeared on the top of the small mountain. Looking at Lin Feng, it opened its mouth and spat out another Zhu Yan demonic ape. It was a Zhu Yan demonic ape in the primordial true spirit realm, but at the moment it looked a little dispirited. Zhu Yan said, "Master of the Celestial Gate, please excuse me. This is a member of my clan." Before this, he provided a secret place for Golden Cicada to live in, but Golden Cicada moved out not long ago. I checked that place and found something. As he said this, a light shadow flew out of one of Zhu Yan's eyes and landed in front of Lin Feng. There was no real body in the light shadow, just some faint light. Lin Feng glanced at it, and found that it was the trace of Dharma power left by Golden Cicada. With Golden Cicada's cultivation level at the Dharma-ending realm, he should not have been caught by the great sage Zhu Yan. However, Lin Feng chased him all the way like herding a sheep, making him have no choice but to keep moving. In the end, he still left some traces. It was impossible for great Saint Zhu Yan to find Golden Cicada with just this little trace. But Lin Feng, with the cicada wings and the golden alms bowl in hand, and this little clue, finding Golden Cicada became a little more convenient. Lin Feng put away the light shadow, and was about to speak when his heart slightly moved. He looked into the distance and saw that the sky had turned into a dark green. Chapter 898. Lin Feng looked into the distant sky and saw that the world had turned completely green. It wasn't a dark green flash, nor was it a cloud or mist. Instead, everything in the world, without exception, had turned dark green. The sky was green, the ground was green, the vegetation was green, the branches and leaves were green, the soil was green, the air was green, the clouds were green, and the light falling from the sky was green. The birds flying in the sky had dark green claws, feathers, beaks, and eyes. A brightly colored tiger was running on the ground. Its fur was dark green, and its stripes were also dark green. However, the color of the stripes was slightly darker than the rest. There seemed to be an invisible dividing line between heaven and earth, dividing the world in front of him into two parts. One part was still the same, and the other was completely green. And now, this green world was constantly pushing toward Lin Feng's feet. In the green world, there was a mass of auspicious clouds, from which a mighty dragon might was exuding, making people feel endless majesty, as if a high and mighty king was calmly looking down on his subjects. Great sage Zhu Yan also saw the other party. He grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth, and laughed soundlessly. In fact, in terms of cultivation and strength, he was almost on par with the other party. However, in terms of appearance, the first impression that the other party gave was that the other party was like a noble descendant of the heavens, noble beyond words, while he was like a bandit leader or a mountain king. The person who came was an expert of the primordial celestial dragon clan, Blue Sky Dragon King, the clan lord of the Blue Dragon clan. Like Zhu Yan, he was a great demon in the early stage of tribulation. Zhu Yan looked at Lin Feng and said, "Since I lost just now, I will keep my promise. Please sit for a moment. I will send this blue dragon away." In the auspicious clouds of the green world, a majestic voice came. Sun-chasing Zhu Yan stepped back. "This has nothing to do with you. Don't interfere in the affairs of the dragon clan." Zhu Yan laughed and said, "Blue Sky, this is the ancestral land of the Zhu Yan clan, a small mountain. It is not a place where you can shout and shout." The battle between him and Lin Feng was a civil one, not a real fight. Naturally, he wouldn't use the power of the ancestral land, but his own magic power. The small mountain was the ancestral land of the Zhu Yan clan. It had been built for a long time, just like the protective formation of the human clan. If they left the small mountain, he and the Blue Sky Dragon King would not be able to do anything to each other. However, if they fought on the small mountain, he had the geographical advantage, and was confident that he would be able to make the Blue Sky Dragon King suffer. The auspicious clouds rolled in the green world, revealing their anger. Zhu Yan Great Saint sneered at the other party. In the ancient era, the death of the absolute emperor and a large number of dragon race experts caused the dragon race to fall into an unprecedented period of weakness. The primordial demon ape race seized the opportunity and replaced the dragon race's ruling position in infinite mainland. By the Middle Era, the extreme king had fallen, and many of the apes had died in the war between the two worlds. The dragons, on the other hand, had recuperated and regained their strength. Gradually, they began to suppress the apes again. Although the dragons couldn't rule the world again because of the rise of the Yudu clan, they had been at odds with the apes since the ancient times. The relationship between the two clans had always been tense. Zhu Yan Great Saint and Blue Sky Dragon King had fought many times in the past. They had won and lost to each other, and there were many grudges between them. The Blue Sky Dragon King and the Great Saint Zhu Yan wanted to say more, but Lin Feng frowned slightly and said, "Great Saint Zhu Yan, I appreciate your kindness, but I don't have the time to stay here any longer. I still have to find Golden Cicada." He looked at the Blue Sky Dragon King. "Your Red Thunder Dragon King wanted to raise the illusory sea tide to stop me from taking the Ingzhou Celestial Mountain. I didn't want to kill him, but he was stubborn and wanted to make trouble for me. That's why I ended him. The Dragon Clan indeed has many experts. You can come to me to avenge him, but you can't." A thunderous roar came from the green clouds. "Master of Xianmen, you are too arrogant." Amidst the roar, the green world expanded rapidly and shrouded Lin Feng. However, the unique green dragon flames of the Jade Dragon Clan were nowhere to be seen. The dragon flames of the Jade Dragon Clan were different from the dragon fire of the Fire Dragon Clan, as well as any other flames in the world. They were neither yin nor yang, but they were very good at breaking other people's divine arts and magic power. They were like maggots on bones, extremely difficult to extinguish. The ancient treasure of the heavenly gates, the sacrificial method of the Western heavenly jade light needle, incorporated many principles. One of them came from the inspiration of the Jade Dragon Clan's dragon flames. Although it was different, it was similar. Strictly speaking, It was similar to the true water of the Blood River and the true water of the Netherworld. The green dragon flames of the Blue Sky Dragon King had been completely refined into a world of treasure light. Wherever the green world shrouded, the opponent's divine arts and magic power would be broken without any special action. In this world, the opponent's divine arts, paths, and skills would be broken as soon as they thought about it. It was as if they were restricted, and they couldn't use any divine arts. This was a forbidden world completely formed by the green dragon flames. Lin Feng shook his head and didn't say anything. He held his right index and middle fingers together like a sword. A sword light flashed at his fingertip. It was the sky-destroying sword aura. However, the sky-destroying sword aura was different from before. It was no longer dark and murderous gray. Instead, it was like when the sky-destroying sword was completely sharpened. It was a chaotic and blurry color. It was as if everything in the world of creation was coming to an end. An actual apocalypse sword will float out. Wherever the sword light went, everything was annihilated and returned to nothingness. The fate of all things was exhausted, and they were heading towards the end. Lin Feng stabbed out with his sword. That chaotic and blurry sword light cut through the Blue Sky Dragon King's forbidden world like a hot knife through butter. The Blue Sky Dragon King exclaimed in surprise. He realized that his forbidden world couldn't break Lin Feng's sky-destroying sword aura. Instead, Lin Feng's sky-destroying sword aura broke his green world. Wherever the sword light went, even the green world, which could break all kinds of skills, was going to be destroyed and ended. Lin Feng's sky-destroying sword aura was unimpeded. The Blue Sky Dragon King's forbidden world couldn't stop it at all. In the blink of an eye, the sword light had hit the green cloud. The Blue Sky Dragon King let out another dragon roar that shook the heavens. Amidst the dragon roar, a huge figure suddenly flashed in the dark green auspicious clouds. It was faintly discernible, and dense demonic energy and blood energy were released at the same time. It was as if the entire world had turned into a great furnace. Facing Lin Feng's sword, the Blue Sky Dragon King didn't dare to be careless. He directly revealed his true form. Although he was still elusive in the cloud, his powerful strength showed everything. The green forbidden world suddenly froze. It was like a huge piece of amber, trying to trap the sky-destroying sword aura. However, the sky-destroying sword aura only paused for a moment before continuing forward, cutting through the green cloud. The cloud dissipated, and the Blue Sky Dragon King finally revealed his true form. It was an extremely huge green dragon that stretched across the sky. It had the head of a cow, the antlers of a deer, the eyes of a shrimp, the ears of an elephant, the neck of a snake, the scales of a fish, the claws of a phoenix, and the paws of a tiger. As the scales opened and closed, the sky was filled with dragon might. His breath formed clouds, and his entire body was green. In the void, a beam of green light fell to the ground. It was a dragon scale. The Blue Sky Dragon King stared at Lin Feng deeply. He had revealed his true form, but he had still lost by one move. He roared into the sky. Master of the Celestial Sect of Wonders, I lost to you by one move today. However, the dragon race will have stronger experts to find you. Lin Feng's expression was calm, but there was a faint black and white light in his eyes. I'll be waiting for you at any time. However, I have something to do now and have no time to chat with you. If you don't leave now, don't ever think of leaving. He had a vague feeling that he could see the world. It seemed that Golden Cicada's plan was not far from succeeding. He needed to hurry. The Blue Sky Dragon King saw the divine light in Lin Feng's eyes. After a moment of silence, he turned and disappeared into the void. The green world instantly went far away. Peace was restored between heaven and earth. The colors of everything in the world returned to normal. After Lin Feng spoke, Great Saint Zhuyan did not continue to speak. He watched quietly as Lin Feng repelled the enemy with a single stroke of his sword. He now had a faint sense of foreboding. His hopes of finding Golden Cicada through Lin Feng and obtaining his flesh and blood seemed to be plummeting. Lin Feng did not say anything else after the Blue Sky Dragon King retreated. He flicked his finger, and the light he had obtained from Great Saint Zhuyan fell into the golden alms bowl. The cicada's wings covered the alms bowl, and thousands of mysterious runes appeared one after another. Lin Feng looked up at the sky. He took a step forward and disappeared from where he stood. The light and shadow that Great Saint Zhu Yan had covered the sky above the lesser secondary mountain also disappeared. The invisible space-time staircase appeared again. Great Saint Zhu Yan stepped on it and followed closely behind Lin Feng. In the Divine Land, in a cave residence on White Cloud Mountain, there were no tables or chairs, only a few simple futons. There were people sitting on the praying mats, forming a circle. Some of them were real people, and some were projections of magic power. Two of the projections were a cold girl who looked 13 or 14 years old, and a handsome young man who looked about 20 years old. They were Lord Qing Yi and Lord Xian Yi of the four elders of Taishu Temple. In front of them, there were real people and projections. They were Yin Yuanjin, Kai Fengzhou, Lord Yu Yuan, and Lord Qing Ning, who were also members of the highest elders of Taishu Temple. The group of people sat in a circle and did not speak. They all closed their eyes and rested. It was not until a young man dressed in cyan appeared in the cave abode that Dao Master Qing Yi and the others opened their eyes and looked at the young man. Dao Han sit, Lord Qing Yi said. Dao Master Qing Yi said. The young man was naturally Lin Daohan. After he bowed to everyone present, he sat down cross-legged on a praying mat. No one spoke. Lin Daohan said silently, according to the news from the vast land of infinite wasteland, the master of the Daoist sect defeated Great Saint Zhu Yan in a battle of mana, and forced the Blue Sky Dragon King to retreat. If the rumors are true, his divine sense and mana are even stronger than when he was on Mount Shu. His swordsmanship has also improved. After the celestial heaven destruction, besides the complete sharpening of his heaven-crushing sword, his swordsmanship has also improved. The celestial heaven sword has been broken. At this moment, if he goes to Mount Shu for a sword battle, I'm afraid no one on Mount Shu can resist him alone, even if he is empty-handed. Chapter 899. After Lin Daohan finished speaking, Dao Master Qing Yi said slowly, Daohan, summarize your experience over the years. Junior brother Xian Yi and martial nephew Qing Ning have been in closed-door training before, so they don't know much about Xianmin Tianzong. Yes, martial uncle. Lin Daohan bowed slightly, looked at Dao Master Xian Yi and Dao Master Qing Ning, and said, for now, the master of Xianmen has great ambitions. It's a bit too much to say that he's the king of the underworld, the ruthless emperor, or the primordial devil lord, but at least he's another heaven emperor and another sword ancestor. Mount Shu has been destroyed, and according to the strength he has shown now, he's even vaguely above the Elysium of the past. Especially the master of Xianmen has always been unpredictable, so I tend to overestimate him. Dao Master Qing Ning looked calm. Then, as junior brother Kuang said, we'll deal with him like how we dealt with the Elysium and Mount Shu in the past. You often say that the disciples of the master of Xianmen are all monsters. What's the specific situation? For the people of the Taishu Temple, the geniuses in the eyes of ordinary people were not geniuses in their eyes, because any disciple of the Taishu Temple was at least such a genius. It was even more so for the members of the highest elders guild, such as Dao Master Qing Ning. After so many years, they had become numb to the geniuses in their own sect, let alone the geniuses in the outside world. There seemed to be a faint smile on Lin Daohan's face, which had always been calm and emotionless. He said, to be honest, martial uncle Qing Ning, when facing Xiaoyan, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao, I'm ashamed of my inferiority in the primordial spirit incarnation realm. As soon as he said this, Dao Master Qing Ning's eyes suddenly flashed. Oh, you are truly a monster among monsters. Apart from Uncle Master Tai, none of the human cultivators I've seen in my life have been able to defeat you in the same realm. Although Dao Master Qing Ning was a generation younger than Dao Master Tai Daoist, Dao Master Qing Yi, and Dao Master Xian Yi, he had actually entered the sect much earlier than Dao Master Tai Daoist. Although he was a generation younger, if one were to consider the time he entered the sect, he was even earlier than Dao Master Qing Yi and Dao Master Xian Yi. In the past, Lord Qing Ning was also a genius who received much attention in the Taishu Temple, but he spent a considerable part of his energy on alchemy. This old man was not only the #1 alchemist in the Taishu Temple, but could also be considered the #1 alchemist in the entire Divine Land. Lin Daohan nodded. I've seen the traces left by Uncle Master Qing Yi in the battle, when the Zhu family joined forces to attack Yujing Mountain. In that battle, the four of them successively reached the primordial spirit realm and displayed extremely powerful strength. Among them, Zhu Yi successfully refined the white jade pillar from Yingzhou Immortal Mountain into the golden Permitha Bridge, a creation magic treasure. Among the four of them, it seems that Zhu Yi has the golden Permitha Bridge with him. His strength can be considered the best under the master of the celestial sect. If we don't count magic treasures and only look at their magic power, the four of them can actually fight with Dao integration experts when they have just reached the primordial spirit realm. It's really amazing. Among them, if Xiao Yan, the eldest disciple of the master of the celestial sect, can use his true fire fusion method to produce a fiery lotus that combines 5 kinds of true fire, he can be considered the best. Lin Daohan said slowly. Although according to my conjecture, Xiao Yan would only have the strength to launch a single attack if it was the 5-colored fire lotus. I'm afraid that among the Dao integration experts who ascended Jade Jing Mountain that day, only the Hall Master of the Underworld Hall would be able to survive his 5-colored fire lotus. However, he would also be heavily injured. Therefore, the final result would most likely be that both sides would be heavily injured. Or perhaps the Hall Master of the Underworld Hall would risk his life and forcefully suppress his injuries to kill Xiao Yan. As for the others, if their sword hearts were stable in the past, they would be able to perish together with Xiao Yan. However, according to the state he was in when he climbed Yujing Mountain, he only has an 80% chance of perishing together with Xiao Yan. There's a 20% chance that he won't be able to kill Xiao Yan and will die first. Excluding the talisman of the reincarnation Taoist, with his own cultivation, Shi Tianfang can only pray that his reincarnation rebirth technique will not be broken, and he can be reborn in place of the dead. He can't resist it, and the chance of his rebirth is less than 50%. Xiao Dongtian and Zhang Enrui will be killed with one blow only by relying on their divine sense and dharma power. There's basically no hope of survival. As Lin Daohan spoke, he flicked his fingers and 2 shadows appeared, showing 2 scenes. One was the scene when Xiao Yan flattened the ancestral land in the late stage of the golden elixir, and used the 3 fiery lotus for the first time. The other scene was 2 years ago in the vast Thousand World, in the Ying Sea, when Yan Mingyue witnessed Xiao Yan using the 4-colored fiery lotus for the first time at the middle stage of the Yuanying period. After seeing the scene, Dao Master Qing Ning's eyes became serious and he nodded. What a violent divine sense! It can produce such a strong power of destruction. Although he will be exhausted after one blow, if he uses the 5-colored fiery lotus with his primordial spirit cultivation, it will indeed be as powerful as you said, and I'm afraid it will only be stronger. Yun Yuanjin said. Even if he doesn't use this method, he can still defeat Xiao Dongtian and Zhang Enrui with his other divine senses. He can even kill one of them at the risk of being seriously injured. In this case, if he uses this method with a seriously injured body, he can kill another person, but he will also die completely. In other words, if it's not a siege, but a continuous one-on-one fight, it's possible that he can kill 2 Dao reunion experts at the same time. The others around him nodded in agreement. Lin Daohan continued. Although Zhu Yi doesn't use his divine senses and dharma power to fight with others, based on his performance during the Yuanying period, and the situation of using the golden Permitha bridge, the strength of him, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao is basically on par with that of Xiao Yan. In fact, the 3 of them are even slightly weaker than Xiao Yan when he uses the true fire fusion power. However, their divine senses and dharma power are not as violent as Xiao Yan's. It won't be difficult for them to defeat Xiao Dongtian and Zhang Enrui, and it won't be difficult for them to fight against Shi Tianfang and Shi Tianhao. However, they are most likely no match for the Temple Master of the Underworld Hall and Jie Luoshi. Of course, it's also very difficult for the Temple Master of the Underworld Hall and Jie Luoshi to defeat them, and it's almost impossible for them to kill them. However, if there are no special circumstances, they won't be able to endanger the lives of Jie Luoshi and Shi Tianfang. After a short pause, Lin Daohan continued. Among them, Wang Lin's situation is a bit special. Because of his divine senses and dharma power, He has an advantage over the other three when facing the Temple Master of the Underworld Hall and Shi Tianfang. If Disciple's observation is correct, he can defeat Shi Tianfang and won't be at a disadvantage when facing the Temple Master of the Underworld Hall. In addition, because of the special nature of his divine senses and Dharma power, he should be the most difficult to kill among the four of them. Although he didn't have a chance to display his strength, I'm afraid he also has some extraordinary means of resurrection. On the other hand, Shi Tianhao has two divine lights of creation. The divine light of End is good at attacking, while the divine light of Origin gives him an extremely strong recovery ability. Therefore, if he doesn't encircle them and instead fights them one-on-one, his actual performance is likely to exceed our expectations. After Lin Daohan finished speaking, he paused for a moment before continuing. In fact, compared to the master of the celestial sect, I think that his disciple, Wang Lin, is more likely to be a figure like the Ming and Li emperors and the primordial devil master. If it weren't for the master of the celestial sect, it would be really hard to predict what this person will do in the future. Dao Master Yu Yuan said coldly. You mean that we should thank the master of the celestial sect? Don't forget who cultivated Wang Lin. If the master of the celestial sect really cared, Wang Lin wouldn't have been able to reach where he is today even if he had been his disciple for many years. What's more, the master of the celestial sect has the nature of a tiger and a wolf. It's just that he is more shrewd than Wang Lin. Otherwise, it would be strange to have such a disciple. What if there were two or more? Shi Tianhao is not much better than Wang Lin. He is not as cruel, but he is even more lawless. The eldest disciple of the sect master, Xiao Yan, is slightly better but not better. Looking at him, it reminds me of... At this point, Dao Master Yu Yuan paused for a moment and did not continue speaking. However, everyone present knew what he meant, because they all had the same thought. Kai Fengzhou's face revealed a slight wry smile. On Xiao Yan, everyone in the Taishu temple could faintly see the shadow of a person. The leader of the four ancient heroes of the Taishu temple, other than the Taishu Taoist, he was the strongest in the history of the Taishu temple, Wen Qiang. His cultivation was close to that of his master, the Taishu Taoist. After the Taishu Taoist and Gautama Buddha went to the Dead Sea, he overlooked all the experts in the divine land. In the war between the two worlds, he was one of the few fierce people who could suppress the Saint Emperor of the Demon Clan. Although the Saint Emperor of the Demon Clan at that time was not as strong as the three great demons, Wen Qiang's ability was still considered shocking, and left a strong mark in the history of the entire Tianyuan world. However, for his sect, Wen Qiang was also known as the most controversial figure in the history, causing headaches for his fellow sect members at that time, and the younger generation did not know how to comment on him. Yin Yuanjin smiles faintly. Counting along the way, of the four most outstanding disciples under the Xian Gate's leader, Xiao Yan still needs to be observed. The one that can be confirmed is actually only junior sister Meng's son Zhu. He can be nurtured, and has hopes of becoming a pillar of the divine continent in the future. Dao Master Qingyi said lightly. If Tiangang took action that day, I only plan to protect Xiao Yan and Zhu Yi. Slowly, Dao Master Xianyi thought for a moment and said, these four people reached the primordial soul realm on the same day. Although it may be because of the pressure caused by the annihilating Xian coalition army, it is too much of a coincidence. I'm not sure about the others, but I watched the video of the Battle of Yujing Mountain that day. Before Shi Tianhao reached the primordial soul realm, he seemed to have taken some kind of elixir. Hearing this, everyone looked at Dao Master Qing Ning. Dao Master Qing Ning's eyes were dim and uncertain. He slowly nodded and said, I have also taken note of what Martial Uncle Xianyi said, but I haven't figured it out. It should not be an elixir that can directly promote a late-stage Yuaniing cultivator to the primordial soul realm. That is completely against the way of heaven, and is not tolerated by the entire vast thousand world. But it is likely to be an elixir that can help to break through bottlenecks or increase the success rate. Everyone nodded together. Even so, such an effect can be called a divine elixir, or an immortal elixir. Dao Master Qing Ning said, this elixir recipe needs to be negotiated with the master of the celestial sect. If it is really an elixir with such an effect, with sufficient raw materials, It can have an earth-shaking effect. Kai Fengzhou smiled bitterly. I'm afraid I don't have a relationship with Xianmen Tianzong now. It's not up to him. Even senior brother Tai Yi will not ignore this matter. Dao Master Qing Yi said calmly, I am more concerned about another thing, and it is about the real cultivation of the master of the celestial sect. When the others heard this, their faces showed contemplation. Chapter 900. After Dao Master Qing Yi finished speaking, Dao Master Xian Yi, Kai Fengzhou, Dao Master Qing Ning, Yin Yuanjin, and Dao Master Yu Yuan all fell into deep thought. After a while, Yin Yuanjin looked at Lin Daohan and asked, Daohan, I heard from Mingyue that you've tried to figure out the true cultivation of the master of the celestial sect? Lin Daohan nodded and said, looking back, it seems that I was a little rash. Slowly Yin Yuanjin shook her head and said, it may not be that you were rash. Looking back, the rise of the master of the celestial sect was not only made by Xianmen Tianzong, but also by the personal cultivation of the master of the celestial sect. There should be a problem with the doppelganger and the original body. Otherwise, the path to the top would be too steep and abrupt. But there should be a node in this. This node. I think it's either the sword trials of Tianjia Peak or the Battle of West Hill City. After this node, what appeared in front of the world? It should be the true body of the celestial sect of Wonder's sect master. Yin Yuanjin said while thinking, the latter is more likely. But according to my observations over the years, the master of the celestial sect has been stronger than when he fought with senior brother Kuang, senior brother Xianlin, and Xian Longsheng in West Hill City. In particular, the Battle of Mount Shu this time is obviously stronger than that in West Hill City. We can't rule out the possibility that the master of the celestial sect still held back his strength in West Hill City. But I think it's more likely that he's stronger than he was in West Hill City. Dao Master Qing Yi and the others listened to Yin Yuanjin silently, and did not interrupt. Yin Yuanjin took a deep breath and said, so I think many of our previous estimates of the master of the celestial sect may be wrong. She looked at Dao Master Qing Yi and said, as Master said, I'm also very concerned about the master of the celestial sect's true cultivation. That's because I've observed his personal disciples. Putting aside those who have yet to attain the essence soul realm, Xiaoyan Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao can fight Dao integration experts at the essence soul embodiment realm. This is truly unbelievable. Yin Yuanjin shook his head and sighed in admiration. Dao Han said that he was ashamed of his inferiority when he was at the primordial spirit incarnation realm. I'm even more inferior. Kai Fengzhou and the others nodded in unison. They were also the same. They did not try to hide this point and admitted it frankly. It's a fact that Xiao Yan and the other three are all exceptionally talented, but I'm afraid it's not just because of their talent that they have the strength they have today. Yin Yuanjin's expression became calm. He said word by word, it should be because of his cultivation. Lin Daohan listened on the side. He could not help but recall the scene of his conversation with Yan Mingyue that day. In the battle outside the Sand Continent city that day, although Pang Jia was not his match at all, when junior brother Pang took out the magic treasure hexagonal sword, this person no longer fought personally. Instead, he used his array to wrap the hexagonal sword in junior brother Pang. Does this mean that his true cultivation is not enough to defeat junior brother Pang who holds the hexagonal sword? Or at least, it's possible that his true cultivation is exposed? This person's cultivation is most likely at the essence soul embodiment realm, followed by the peak Yuanying realm. The possibility of him being at the void return realm is relatively small, and it's impossible for him to be at the essence soul integration realm. Eldest senior brother, what if our inference is wrong and this person's cultivation is far higher than the essence soul embodiment realm? Then I'll be very happy that Mount Shu Sword Sect has a strong opponent. What if his cultivation is far lower than the essence soul embodiment realm? If his cultivation is far lower than the essence soul embodiment realm, it means that the cultivation method he cultivates is above the great way of our Taishu temple. The discussion of the past was still ringing in their ears. Although it was now basically confirmed that Lin Feng was only a doppelganger at that time, at this moment, The strength that Xiao Yan and the other three showed at the middle Yuanying realm, the late Yuanying realm, and the essence soul embodiment realm, they could see the strength of the heirs of Xianmen Tianzong. Slowly Dao Master Qingyi said, "So I am very suspicious that this person's cultivation may not be at the Dharma ending realm, but his divine sense and Dharma power are so strong that he is very fierce in fights. He can defeat the Big Dipper, Great Saint Juyan, and Blue Sky Dragon King without showing his fruit of the way. He activated the Dharma ending tribulation in West Hill City. It's very likely that it was a trick, and he didn't complete the initial tribulation himself." Kai Fengzhou had a serious look in his eyes. "Then what is his cultivation level?" Dao Master Qingyi and Yin Yuanjin shook their heads. "It's very confusing, and we still can't see it clearly. After all, no one knows if he has used his full strength. At least, we can be sure that when he went to Mount Shu that day, he only used his sword principle to defeat the Celestial Heaven faction. He definitely didn't use his full strength. Up until now, he has always been at ease and has never been in a desperate situation. So his strength has never been bottomed out. It's like a deep pool that you think you've seen to the bottom, but in fact, it's very deep." Dao Master Yu Yuan said. "In West Hill City, Martial Uncle Jingyi wanted to test his strength, but in the end he didn't succeed. Looking back, that was probably the best opportunity. Unfortunately, there were changes in Tianhuang land at that time, and Martial Uncle Tai, Martial Uncle Xuani, and Martial Uncle Qingyi were all busy. The temple master and junior brother Wu were also tied up." Kai Fengzhou glanced at her. Junior brother Wu couldn't fight in the divine land, at least not until he had no other choice. Moreover, by letting junior brother Wu fight in the West Hill City, are you trying to force Emperor Qin's Stonefeather and the Immortal Dragon City to personally take action? Dao Master Yu Yuan nodded. "I misspoke." Yin Yuanjin looked at Lin Daohan. "Daohan, do you remember that you buried a chess piece in Xianmen Tianzong? Now is the time to use it." Lin Daohan's eyes were calm. Silently, he looked at Yin Yuanjin and didn't say anything. Yin Yuanjin's expression was also calm as she looked at Lin Daohan. After a while, she said silently, "The temple master and senior brother Fu's thoughts are too dangerous." She didn't mention the Grand One Dao Master, but everyone present knew. Lin Daohan didn't say anything. Dao Master Qingyi looked at him. "Daohan, do you trust a person who you can't see through at all?" Slowly, Dao Master Qingning said, "We don't need the complete orthodox inheritance of the master of Xianmen Tianzong. We just need a part of it. The Taoism of Xianmen Tianzong is so shocking that it might even surpass our own. It's probably similar to our Taoism, which is too profound and has a high requirement for aptitude. It's not possible for it to be popularized. As long as we can get a part of it, we can trace it back to its source and see through the details of the master of Xianmen Tianzong." Dao Master Xian Yi and Kai Fengzhou were silent. Dao Master Yu Yuan said, "Even if we want to nip it in the bud, we should know ourselves and the enemy." Lin Daohan didn't look at Dao Master Qingning, Dao Master Yu Yuan, or Yin Yuanjin. Instead, he looked at Dao Master Qingyi. Dao Master Qingyi said calmly, "You don't have to make a decision in a hurry. After today, ask senior brother Tai Yi and the temple master, and then make a decision. No matter what decision you make, you don't have to tell us what the final result will be. You just need to bring the problem of Yu Yuan and me to senior brother Tai Yi and the temple master. Ask them if they can trust a person they don't know. If we want to nip it in the bud, should we know ourselves and the enemy?" Lin Daohan shook his head and said, "Martial uncle, you misunderstood. Although the Taoism of our temple has always been called the best in the divine land and the Tianyuan realm, we all know that our Taoism is still exploring the great way of heaven and earth. It's far from reaching the peak. If we can bring our Tao to the next level, whether it's me, Grandmaster, or Master, we are all happy. We don't have to plagiarize the direct Tao of the celestial sect of Xianmen, but we can learn from others. As long as it can inspire our Tao, it's good. But the purpose of all this is to make our temple stronger, so that we can better protect the divine land and fight against the demon clan." Lin Daohan looked calm and said, If we don't intensify the conflict between Xianmen Tianzong and our temple to the point that it can't be resolved, it won't cause the internal friction of the human clan's strength. I will naturally do it. It was for this reason that I buried the hidden pawn. But if this completely triggers a fierce battle between us and Xianmen Tianzong, and the demon clan will benefit for nothing, then I think this matter needs to be considered. If the harvest of Xianmen Tianzong's Taoism can make up for it, or even surpass the loss caused by the fierce battle with Xianmen Tianzong, then it's still worth doing. Dao Master Qing Yi nodded and said, "You can decide for yourself." Lin Daohan bowed slightly and said, "Yes, martial uncle." At this time, Dao Master Qing Ning said, "This matter can be planned slowly. Before that, the elixir recipe is more important, and it may have an immediate effect." Dao Master Yu Yuan shook his head and said, "I'm more concerned about his sky-killing sword. This sword is extremely fierce and contains the power to destroy the world. It shouldn't be forged, otherwise I'm afraid it's like nurturing a tiger and inviting disaster." The master of the celestial sect is stubborn. In order to fight against the Haotian mirror, he not only sealed the sword, but also strengthened it further. At that time, I'm afraid he will be the first to be devoured by the sword. But if the sword goes out of control, the second threat will be the entire divine land. Dao Master Qing Ning said, "I've already said it last time, and I still have the same idea. Create an opportunity for the master of the celestial sect to unseal the sword in advance, as long as it's used to deal with the demon clan. If he insists on not using the sword, we can take the opportunity to see where his limit is." Lin Daohan, Dao Master Xian Yi, and Kai Fengzhou all frowned slightly and said, "I'm afraid this is not appropriate, right?" Yun Yuanjin said with a smile, "With this sword, the Haotian mirror can be restored to its full state and by precious time." Dao Master Xian Yi and Kai Fengzhou were silent. Lin Daohan's eyes flickered slightly and then calmed down again. He didn't say anything more. After a long time, Kai Fengzhou said, "The master of the celestial sect is not stupid. In this way, he naturally knows that it will only deepen the conflict between us. As for other things like elixir recipes, don't even think about it. If we start to negotiate with him, it will only end up in an unmanageable situation." Dao Master Qing Yi said silently, "The master of the celestial sect is indeed not stupid, and he is a first-class smart person. That's why he has always been submissive before he matured. It's very simple to make him behave. We just need to keep our view that we are always stronger than him. If he wants to refine the sword, let him be. Let's see if the Haotian mirror can recover first, or if his heaven-punishing sword can reach a higher level first." Dao Master Qing Yi's light shadow stood up from the position of the cattail hassock and said, "It's just that we underestimated him before, but it won't happen again." She looked at Lin Daohan and asked, "What's the situation with the Underworld Hall and the King of the Underworld?" Lin Daohan replied, "The King of the Underworld intends to sit back and watch the conflict between us and Xianmen Tianzong while accumulating his strength. I'm afraid that he won't take any action in a short period of time. If we want to find him, we still have limited clues." Dao Master Qing Yi nodded and said, "His threat may not be as great as Xianmen Tianzong, but it's more obvious. While paying attention to Xianmen Tianzong, don't let down the King of the Underworld." Lin Daohan bowed and said, "I understand." At this time, on the vast land of infinite wilderness, Lin Feng, who was walking slowly, finally stopped. He flicked his fingers and a few streams of magic power shot out. The golden alms bowl and cicada wings flew into the air, and turned into golden light that kept dancing. Chapter 901. The trajectory of the golden light seemed to be chaotic, but it actually contained many principles. It outlined a huge and complicated pattern in the void. Lin Feng flicked his finger lightly, and a misty purple aura enveloped the huge pattern that was originally golden. The golden pattern kept flashing, and in the end, it was dyed with a layer of purple. Invisible light waves, with this pattern as the center, spread out in all directions in circles, spreading farther and farther, and gradually dissipating between heaven and earth. However, Lin Feng's divine sense also spread out, covering the sky and covering the earth, searching for golden cicada. Zhu Yan the great saint walked out of the void, stood still, and watched Lin Feng cast the spell. After a moment of careful perception, he thought to himself, the master of the celestial gate is indeed powerful, and I am inferior to him. If I get the golden cicada wings, although I can also try to find golden cicada, I'm afraid the efficiency will be much lower, and golden cicada will easily get rid of me. Lin Feng's divine sense spread out, and with himself as the center, it swept across the entire world. In the circle of invisible light waves, suddenly, a path appeared faintly, breaking through the void, winding forward in the layers of space, and constantly extending. This path was very strange, with many twists and turns, without any rules to speak of. In many places, it even kept going back. After extending to a place, it directly turned around and went back. Halfway through, it suddenly made a right-angle turn. And then in a short while, it made another right-angle turn. The two turns combined, it was equivalent to turning around again. This was only a small part of the long road. In fact, this winding road paved with purple light was showing this strange phenomenon almost all the time. This situation occurred because this path passed through layers of space, the result of constant changes. Both Lin Feng and Zhu Yan the great saint watched this scene calmly. They were not in a hurry to step onto the stairs, but patiently waited for the path to appear completely and extend to the end. During this process, Lin Feng's divine sense swept in all directions, and his heart suddenly moved slightly. Oh, why is he here? It turned out that when Lin Feng's divine sense swept, he found that there was a battle taking place in the distance. One of the two combatants was a gigantic monkey with a jet-black body and a green face. As it breathed, wisps of sinister wind would blow through the air, resembling black strands of silk. Anything touched by the black, thread-like wind lost its vitality, as if it had been frozen from the inside by the frigid power from the inside out. Even though it didn't seem to have any changes on the outside, it was as if it had been frozen from the inside. One of the 4 great divine winds in the world, the 9th nether wind, was the coldest thing in the world, like the Xianming water of the 6th true water. Compared to the nether true water, which acted from the outside to the inside, the 9th Hellene wind was the exact opposite. It first acted from the soul of a living being, and froze the soul before acting on the body. After being frozen by the Xianming true water, one would become an ice sculpture. After being frozen by the 9 nether chilly wind, one's appearance would not change much, but one's soul would be completely frozen and lose its vitality, becoming like a clay puppet. Frozen by the Xianming water, the person would become an ice sculpture, and frozen by the netherworld wind, the appearance would not change much, but the spirit would be completely frozen and lose its vitality, becoming like a clay puppet. The netherworld wind originated from the netherworld sea of the 7 seas of heaven origin, which was also known as the netherworld sea. It would not easily appear in the world, and even if the netherworld sea opened a crack, it would be a small amount. The netherworld wind raging in the netherworld sea was incomparably vigorous, incomparably violent, covering the sky and the earth, as if it wanted to freeze everything it touched. Together with the netherworld evil flame, the blood river true water, and the infinite evil spirit, it was a famous disaster in the great heaven origin world. Outside the netherworld sea, the great heaven origin world could control and refine the netherworld wind was the primordial demonic ape clan, one of which was called the netherworld ghost monkey. The green-faced black monkey that Lin Feng's divine sense had discovered was a netherworld ghost monkey king, who had already formed a demon infant. As far as Lin Feng knew, the leader of the 9 nether ghost monkey clan should also be a great saint-level demon clan, known as the 9 nether great sage. However, because he did not often appear in the world, he was not very sure about his specific realm level. The 9 nether ghost monkey was someone that Lin Feng had never interacted with before. Today was also the first time that he had personally seen one alive. However, the opponent of the 9 nether ghost monkey was someone that Lin Feng was slightly familiar with. It was the Beyond Heaven Mountain disciple that he had met a few times before, Chu Yang. However, for some reason he had also come to the infinite wilderness. Strictly speaking, the Spirit Abyss Mountain where the primordial demon ape clan resided was still a certain distance away from the realm passageway between the vast land of the Divine Land and Tianhuang mainland. As a human cultivator, Chu Yang was already extremely deep into Tianhuang mainland when he arrived at this location. He was not there to hunt demons. He had been cautious along the way, using the northwest nether sword of the ancient heavenly sect's Major Nine Heavens divine sword to conceal his tracks, and tried his best to avoid conflict with the demons. The demons did not pay much attention to a late-stage golden elixir cultivator like him, and few demon kings and demon commanders could see his whereabouts. Hence, he had managed to find his way to the Spirit Abyss Mountain. It's a pity that the heavenly crystal is suppressed under the mountain. If I take it out, I will definitely alarm this demon monkey. Otherwise, I could have taken it and left without anyone knowing. Chu Yang calmly fought with the netherworld ghost monkey in front of him. He also wanted to enter the village quietly and not shoot, but for the sake of his goal, he had no choice but to alarm the other party. At this moment, facing the aggressive netherworld ghost monkey, a cold look flashed across Chu Yang's eyes. He had always been a ruthless person, but in order to hide his secrets, he often did not show his true abilities to prevent leaks. However, if he attacked, he would finish it in one go, using all his strength to kill the other party, leaving no survivors. This is the netherworld ghost monkey's territory. If I continue to waste time with him, I will only attract more demon monkeys. The cold and ruthless look in Chu Yang's eyes disappeared, leaving only focus. His sword stance suddenly changed, and an extremely sharp and dazzling sword light surged. It was like the sun rising from the east, emitting a blazing golden light. The majestic light was like a bright sun, immediately isolating the netherworld wind that was drifting in the air and blowing towards him. The scorching feeling made the demon monkey grimace. It's not the true solar fire, but the sword intent is the same as the solar fire? You actually use the sword Dao to manifest the Golden Crow race's special technique, the solar fire technique. What sword Dao is this? The ancient heavenly gates had been destroyed for too long. Even in the Divine Land's human cultivation world, there were very few people who recognized Chu Yang's southeastern Yang heavenly sword. If it was a great demon that had lived through the ancient age, they might be able to recognize the foundation of Chu Yang's sword. However, this demon monkey had only lived for 1,000 years, so it was naturally impossible for him to recognize it. Chu Yang raised his sword high above his head, like the sun hanging high in the sky, illuminating the bright world. The faint golden sword light became restrained and gentle again. However, the demon monkey did not dare to underestimate this morning sun, that seemed soft but not weak, bright but not fierce. Chu Yang's sword just now, with his golden elixir period cultivation, had broken through the netherworld wind that he, as a demon king, had activated. Chu Yang and the netherworld ghost monkey naturally did not realize that all their actions were seen by Lin Feng. Looking at Chu Yang, Lin Feng smiled slightly. Not bad, not bad. It's not just bits and pieces, but the most orthodox Heavenly Gates Major Nine Heavens Divine Sword Legacy. Compared to Eastern Heavenly Gates Incomplete Heavenly Gates, Chu Yang's Major Nine Heavens Divine Sword was much more complete. However, from the looks of it, he had only obtained the Major Nine Heavens Divine Sword, and did not have the Heavenly Gates' other paths, techniques. However, Lin Feng frowned slightly, feeling that something was wrong. Chu Yang could not discover it, but he could not hide it from his eyes. On the Netherworld Peak, the ancestral land of the Netherworld Ghost Monkey race, there was clearly a Netherworld Ghost Monkey at the Unity Astral Soul level. He was expressionless, staring down at Chu Yang from above. To have such a cultivation level, there was no doubt that it could only be the leader of the Netherworld Ghost Monkey race, the Netherworld Great Sage. The Netherworld Great Sage glanced coldly at Chu Yang, and did not pay much attention to him. There were already other clansmen rushing over. He retracted his gaze and looked at the void again, in the direction where Lin Feng was. Lin Feng seemed to be looking at him across space, but the Netherworld Great Sage's gaze was clearly a little vague. He could not see Lin Feng's actions, nor could he sense what Lin Feng was doing. He only seemed to know that there was someone in that direction that he needed to be on guard against. Nether Great Sage was only quietly on guard, not daring to use his gaze to pierce through the void and truly look at the area where Lin Feng was. That would immediately attract Lin Feng's attention and vigilance. which was equivalent to taking the initiative to provoke Lin Feng. When Lin Feng scanned with his divine sense just now, he would also instantly notice it. And now, if Lin Feng had not paid special attention to Chu Yang and the Netherworld Ghost Monkey race, he might not have noticed the abnormality of the Netherworld Great Sage. Although he might not be on guard against me, this is too much of a coincidence. Lin Feng thought. If he is indeed on guard against me, why? Just because I'm a human? If he is on guard like this, he might as well openly sweep his divine sense over. After all, this is the ancestral land of the primordial demon ape race. Being so low-key will only make it more conspicuous. Thinking of this, Lin Feng's gaze narrowed slightly as he looked at the path of purple light that was still extending in front of him. The speed at which the path extended was surprisingly slowing down, as if it was about to reach the end. Seeing that the path continued to extend, Lin Feng spread his sleeves and let Shi Tianhao, Wang Lin, and the others out. He said, "Go south. It is the territory of the Netherworld Ghost Monkey race. You can go there and have a look." He then looked at Luo Qinggu and said with a smile, "You can observe that Chu Yang's swordsmanship. It will help you figure out the last sword move of the innate six-direction sword way." Luo Qinggu looked at Lin Feng in surprise and said, "Master, are you referring to the swordsmanship of Beyond Heaven Mountain?" The innate six-direction sword way was a swordsmanship that she had created after comprehending her family's Dao technique, the 8 trigrams of the Great Way. Following Lin Feng's guidance, it was completely different from the swordsmanship that existed in the Divine Land. This swordsmanship was quite unique. Its sword intent was closely related to Luo Qingwu's purine body and her understanding of swordsmanship. As her cultivation level increased, it could truly become more perfect. Therefore, even though she had already cultivated the 4 symbols heaven-opening scripture, and had even comprehended another divine ability, the innate 6-direction sword way still had the last 6th sword move to be completely perfected. Compared to the difficulty of comprehending and cultivating it, the power of this swordsmanship was equally astonishing. Hearing Luo Qingwu's question, Lin Feng smiled and said, "Of course not." Luo Qingwu blinked and said respectfully, "Disciple understands." Chapter 902. Facing the Hades Ghost Monkey King, Chu Yang's southeastern Yang sky sword seemed to transform into a real sun as he silently confronted the Hades Ghost Monkey King. The Hades Ghost Monkey King's eyes narrowed and flashed with an ominous glint. He suddenly extended his claws and scratched at the void. His figure instantly disappeared, appearing in front of Chu Yang in a single step. And with that scratch, the space around Chu Yang also violently distorted. The sun-like sword light around him twisted and tore apart. The southeastern Yang sky sword was both offensive and defensive. The sword light could be released to attack the enemy, but when it was withdrawn, it was like he was in the sun. There were no gaps in all directions, protecting him in the center. The Hades Ghost Monkey King had the ability to comprehend the mysteries of space as a demon king and a human Yuanying stage cultivator. Even if he could break through the void and launch a surprise attack, he still had to face Chu Yang's sword light defense. He was like a curled-up hedgehog. But this demon monkey king's scratch had also broken through the void where Chu Yang was. It was taking drastic measures to break through Chu Yang's sword Dao. It was clearly using the demon king realm to forcefully defeat Chu Yang, who was in the golden elixir period. Seeing this, Chu Yang smiled slightly. His sword momentum suddenly changed. The blazing light that filled the sky disappeared, leaving only a dim but not weak shadow that flickered in and out of sight. The Hades Ghost Monkey King's narrowed eyes suddenly widened, because in his divine sense, Chu Yang seemed to have suddenly disappeared, without a trace. The next moment, the dim shadow had already fled, brushing past the Hades Ghost Monkey King, and instantly escaping the monkey's attack range. After flying a little further away, the dim shadow once again revealed Chu Yang's appearance. His expression was calm as usual. His southeastern Yang sky sword had suddenly turned into the northwestern Nether sky sword. His body turned into a shadow and hid in the void. Even the Demon King realm Hades Ghost Monkey King's spatial seal could not trap him. Seeing the Hades Ghost Monkey King turn around and prepare to pounce on him again, Chu Yang suddenly smiled. The sword in his hand had already returned to its sheath, and he turned to leave. The Hades Ghost Monkey King was stunned, then enraged. But just as he was about to continue chasing, he suddenly felt a slight pain in the top of his head. Then his entire body began to tremble. On his forehead, a thin strand of dark green light shot out, originating from a hole the size of a needle's eye. However, this hole seemed to have caused the Ghost Monkey King's life force to completely leak out. He only felt that his life was rapidly flowing away. The Ghost Monkey King's body faintly trembled. Looking inside his body, he discovered that it wasn't just his body that was damaged. There was also a small hole on the top of his divine soul. There was also a small hole on the top of the demon nascent soul's head, and its essence kept leaking out. The Netherworld Ghost Monkey King felt that his consciousness was quickly disappearing. How could this be when a late-stage golden elixir cultivator killing a demon king wasn't something that had never happened before, but it was extremely rare. This Ghost Monkey King really didn't expect to face such a scene today. At the last moment of his life, the Ghost Monkey King of the Netherworld was enlightened. Yes, it was the moment when he and I passed by each other. With this thought, the Ghost Monkey King's body softened and fell heavily to the ground. This scene clearly fell in the eyes of Wang Lin, Shi Tianhao, and the others who had already arrived at the surroundings and were secretly watching the battle. The Ghost Monkey King didn't think clearly until the last moment of his life. Wang Lin and Shi Tianhao, who had already reached the nascent divinity realm, naturally saw through it at a glance. Shi Tianhao slightly tilted his head. Third senior brother, do they look alike? Wang Lin calmly replied, Heavenly Blue Light Needle, Jade Dragon Flame of the Jade Dragon Clan. Behind him, Yang Qing, Li Yuanfang, and Luo Qinggu nodded together. The concept is very similar, but it has already been integrated into the sword Dao, forming a style of its own. Luo Qinggu witnessed the whole process of Chu Yang using the Northwest Heavenly Sword and the West Heavenly Sword to counterattack and kill the Ghost Monkey King. She pondered and said, so that's how it is. No wonder Master said that by observing his sword Dao, Xiaowu can comprehend her own innate six directions sword Dao by analogy. But it's only the innate six directions sword Dao. Later on, everyone has a different path. While she was thinking, Shi Tianhao asked, Little junior sister, what do you think of this person's sword Dao? Luo Qinggu giggled. Little senior brother, don't tease Xiaowu. Although Xiaowu concentrates on practicing the sword, her cultivation is too far behind you and third senior brother. If we really talk about sword Dao, little senior brother, you're better than Xiaowu. Shi Tianhao shook his head. My sword Dao has my own understanding, but it actually leans towards Master's heaven-punishing sword Qi. You're different. You're completely independent. Even Master will only give you some pointers on the basis of your own understanding. He won't put any extra influence on you. You practice the innate six directions sword Dao and the Great Four Elephant Immortal Killing Sword. Although you refer to other sword Dao, the sword intent is your own concept that is independent of all the swords in the world. What you refer to is the technique, not the Dao. Luo Qinggu stopped smiling and didn't rush to answer. Instead, she thought carefully for a while before answering. He has already obtained the true inheritance of that sword Dao, but from what he has shown so far, he's still at the beginning stage. As expected, he hit his true skills during the Kunlun Mountain Spell Conference. This sword Dao inheritance is the Great Nine Heavens Godly Sword of Elysium. This is something that we all know. It's the same as the sword Dao of Elysium's Elder Heavenly Spirit Elder that was refined by the life and death Nether Dao fruit of the King of the Underworld. Luo Qinggu said, only when you practice the Great Nine Heavens Godly Sword to the level of Elder Heavenly Spirit, can you be considered to have reached the next level. But if you want to reach the peak, there's still a long way to go. However, even if it's just the beginning stage, it's already very powerful. Wang Lin said silently, the Great Heavenly Dao and the Great Heavenly Wheel are the foundation of the Elysium. And the Great Nine Heavens Godly Sword is the Great Dao of divine powers that the Elysium created to improve. Even if it doesn't surpass the Great Heavenly Dao and the Great Heavenly Wheel, it's at least unique. It's a different path that runs parallel with the Great Heavenly Dao, and broadens the path of the ancient Elysium. If this sword Tao continues to develop, it might be able to feed back the great heavenly Tao, allowing the great heavenly Tao to improve as well. The people of the Elysium may have had such thoughts when they created this sword. Shi Tianhao smiled and said, "It's also because the ancient Elysium died young. Otherwise, if their 9 heavens godly sword really appeared, they might have used their sword to send the Shushan immortal heavenly sword to destruction." Li Yuanfang said calmly, "If his secret is exposed, he will be targeted by the great Zhou dynasty." Yang Qing said, "After all, he is old friends with our sect. We will naturally keep his secret. If the great Zhou dynasty makes things difficult for him, we will protect him." Li Yuanfang and Luo Qingwu nodded in unison. That's how it should be. Their doppelgangers, which were completely identical to their real bodies, were obtained because of Chu Yang. About a year ago in the Boundless World, Chu Yang had coincidentally obtained a treasure called the Seal Spirit Stone when he was traveling. It could help cultivators below the Yuanying stage to create a doppelganger that was completely identical to their real bodies. Mystiques and spiritual power could be perfectly replicated. The waves of spiritual sense, spiritual power aura, and appearance were all completely identical. It could also be cultivated and promoted along with the real body. However, the cultivation of the doppelganger would always be one level lower than the real body. At the same time, this doppelganger could not attain primordial spirit Tao. Even so, it was quite effective when used properly. Chu Yang obtained a total of 9 of these seal spirit stones. He used one for himself and used it to fool Li Baitao during the incident at Beyond Heaven Mountain. As for the remaining 8, he gave half to Wu Yunliang. Wu Yunliang kept it a secret and did not rush to give it to the outstanding disciples of the sect during the Golden Elixir period. He only distributed it after the Battle of Shushan. As for the other half, Chu Yang gave it to Xianmen Tianzong. Of course, his plan was to give it to Luo Qingwu. Later, because of the appearance of Mount Yujing, Xiao Yan and the others on the mountain, out of consideration for war preparations, Luo Qingwu and Li Yuanfang each used one. They were not directly participating in the battle. Instead, they each used the Yin-Yang Sea and the Yin-Yang Life and Death formation to deal with the enemy. The 2 doppelgangers with lower cultivation levels could also play a supporting role from the side. Together with Zhu Yi's Dragon Ascension technique, they played a significant role. Dao Yuding also received one, but she was not in a hurry to use it. She was Yang Qing's backup. Since Yang Qing had returned to the mountain, she naturally did not need to take risks. Originally, there was another one prepared for Yang Qing. However, when Yang Qing returned to the mountain, she was already in the Yuanying stage. Naturally, there was no need for her to take risks. Therefore, Xianmen Tianzong still had 2 seal spirit stones left. They would be used as rewards for meritorious junior disciples in the future. Shi Tianhao smiled and said, "Let's protect him for now." He looked at Chu Yang and saw that there was already an extremely powerful aura pouncing over from the territory of the Hades ghost monkeys. In an instant, it was near Chu Yang. Before Chu Yang came, he had obviously done a general understanding of the surrounding environment. He had also chosen the route of retreat very carefully. He took what he wanted. After killing the Hades ghost monkey king, he ran toward the territory of the Zhuyan demonic apes. Among the primordial demonic apes, the Hades ghost monkeys and the Zhuyan demonic apes had always been at odds. It could be said that among the many branches of the ape race, they had the worst relationship with each other. If it were any other time, the Hades ghost monkeys in the Demon King realm would most likely chase after him. He might really be able to take advantage of the chaos and escape. However, Chu Yang's luck was not very good. Today was obviously a little special. The Hades Great Sage, who occupied the Hades Peak, was not a threat. In fact, when he first glanced at Chu Yang, the Hades Great Sage had a vague feeling that something was wrong. Then he focused all his attention on Lin Feng, and did not care about the fight between his clansmen. However, other than the Hades Great Sage, the Hades ghost monkeys and other great demons who had attained indestructible demonic souls were also waiting for him. With their cultivation, no matter how strange Chu Yang's heavenly crushing sword was, It was impossible for him to kill their clansmen under their noses. However, Wang Lin had secretly shielded Chu Yang. It was only after the Hades Ghost Monkey King died that the few great demons reacted. A Hades ghost monkey that had attained indestructible demonic soul immediately left the Hades Peak and chased after Chu Yang, who had dared to kill his clansmen. This Hades ghost monkey, who was known as the Great Sage, was originally guarding the distance with his clan leader. When he suddenly realized that his clansmen had not been able to take down a young cultivator of the Golden Elixir period, and had been killed instead, he was instantly enraged. Although Chu Yang's Northwest Serene Heaven sword was profound, the gap between their realms was too great. Very soon, the Great Sage caught up to him. Chapter 903. The Demonic Aura, which felt like the sky was pressing down on him, almost paralyzed Chu Yang. Heilin Great Sage didn't even need to spit out the 9 Serenities' chilly wind. His demonic aura alone was enough to make Chu Yang feel like his spirit was frozen. This feeling, a great demon with an indestructible demonic soul? Chu Yang's heart immediately sank. In the depths of his spirit, a blurry shadow shook. Looking closely, it seemed to be a long sword. However, half of it seemed to be real, while the other half was light and shadow. It didn't really take a physical form, but floated in Chu Yang's spirit. About 4/9 of this sword shadow looked real, while 5/9 were light and shadow. It's a pity that I don't have time to smelt the celestial crystal into it. Otherwise, there would be more hope. Chu Yang knew that the gap between him and the enemy was too big. He might not be able to escape even if he used all his skills. However, he still kept his cool and tried to fight for his last chance. However, he also felt a little strange. The place where he took the celestial crystal and killed the Ghost Monkey King was clearly very far from the 9 Serenities Peak. Could it be that his luck was so bad that he just happened to run into a 9 Serenities ghost monkey with an indestructible demonic soul paying attention to what was happening here? Even so, if his immediate family hadn't been killed, a great saint level 9 Serenities ghost monkey wouldn't have condescended to personally chase after him. It would have been normal for him to send a few stronger ghost monkey kings. Was his luck really that bad? While thinking gloomily, Chu Yang prepared for his last fight. He didn't expect to injure the enemy. Instead, he used all his strength on the Northwest Nether Heaven sword in order to escape quickly. Chu Yang didn't even have time to pay attention to his back. He didn't even divert his divine sense to sweep behind him, let alone turn around to look. It would only be a waste of time, and make his chances of escaping even smaller. At this moment, there was an extremely huge black ape behind him. It had a green face and fangs, and it was breathing cold air from its bloody mouth. It was very close to Chu Yang. At this moment, the void between heaven and earth suddenly shook. A figure had already stepped out from it, and looked at Chu Yang and the Heilin Great Sage with a smile. It was a purple-clothed young man with a golden beast fur coat on the outside. His figure was extremely tall and straight, and he looked extremely handsome. His smooth jet-black hair hung loosely behind him. As soon as he appeared in front of the Heilin Great Sage. The Heilin Great Sage's vision blurred. The young man in purple stretched out his hand and grabbed him. The majestic dark Great Sage's movements didn't seem fast, but he just couldn't dodge. His huge body that was thousands of feet tall was directly grabbed by the young man's hand. The young man opened his palm, and the space around him was folded. It wasn't that the majestic dark Great Sage's body had shrunk. Rather, the space around him had been compressed. Heilin Great Sage was shocked at first, then he became furious, and violent energy surged around him. He, the ghost monkey of the 9 Nether, was not known for his physical strength among the many branches of the primordial demonic ape clan, but that was only relative to the other ape clans. In fact, compared to the other demon clans, the ghost monkey of the 9 Nether was not weak. However, he couldn't move at all after being grabbed by the young man. The young man increased his strength and squeezed gently. The Heilin Great Sage felt as if all the bones in his body were about to be crushed. What kind of demon is this guy in human form? Does the human race have such a strong body? The Heilin Great Sage was shocked and angry. He looked up to the sky and let out a long howl. A large amount of netherworld wind gushed out and filled the sky, shrouding the young man. At the same time as the Tao Lord Great Sage let out a long hiss, his eyes shone with a strange brilliance, as if condensing into a strange shadow of a monkey that was roaring at the sky and the void. The Tao Lord Great Sage's body, on the other hand, showed a bit of dullness and dullness. This was his trump card. It was an innate magic that could only be obtained after the He Great King reached the undying demon soul realm. The He Linli Great Sage's soul-shattering roar. The roar was directly aimed at the opponent's divine soul. Combined with the netherworld Yin wind, its power was multiplied. It was a powerful divine soul technique. With one roar, the primordial soul realm or undying demon soul realm of humans and demons within a radius of thousands of miles would have their divine souls shattered, except for a few exceptions. Even human cultivators who had cultivated the primordial soul, or great demons who had cultivated the undying demon soul, might have their primordial soul and demon soul shattered when facing this technique. They would be seriously injured. This technique was launched from the divine soul, and also affected the divine soul. No matter how strong the body's magic power was, the defensive effect it could play was limited. The divine soul technique was restrained by the powerful yang qi, and could be easily broken. However, at the level of the He Linli Great Sage, the activation of his race's innate magic power was no longer something that could be broken by the simple yang qi and blood. Even if he was broken, he could still pose a threat to the enemy's divine soul. At least, it would be a situation where both sides would suffer. The He Linli Great Sage's long howl was not only aimed at the purple-robed young man in front of him, but also intended to kill Chu Yang. Unexpectedly, the purple-robed young man in a golden beast coat chuckled. Suddenly, countless purple lightning flashed in the palm that grabbed the He Linli Great Sage, and terrifying purple-green lightning snakes jumped continuously. He suddenly added some strength to his palm. Immediately, the sound of bones cracking could be heard incessantly. The He Linli Great Sage's entire body was twisted. The violent lightning made the He Linli Great Sage cry out miserably, and he immediately stopped the netherworld soul-shattering roar. The long hiss, which had shaken the hearts of all the nascent divinity cultivators and made them shudder with fear, had just opened its mouth when it seemed to have been cut off by someone with a pair of scissors, leaving only a trace of a shrill sound echoing between heaven and earth. The strange monkey shadow that was roaring at the sky and the void was twisted by the dancing lightning and immediately shattered. Holding the dying He Linli Great Sage in his hand, the purple-robed young man turned to look at Chu Yang and said with a smile, "Why did you come to the infinite mainland? And you even went all the way here?" The young man in purple was naturally Shi Tianhao. Chu Yang looked at him and let out a sigh of relief. However, a strange feeling suddenly rose in his heart, as if he had lost something. This feeling came without any reason, and even Chu Yang himself didn't know what was going on, and he couldn't figure it out. Shaking his head to get rid of the stray thoughts, Chu Yang cupped his fists and bowed to Shi Tianhao. "Thank you, Elder Shi. I will never forget this." After Xiao Yan and Shi Tianhao proved their essence soul Dao and displayed their powerful strength in a great battle on Yujing Mountain, the entire divine land was once again shocked. The title of the 4 heroes of the celestial sect also spread like wildfire, and gained more and more people's respect. However, the 4 of them had never intended to give themselves honorific titles, and there was no news of their Taoist titles in Xianmen Tianzong. Therefore, the outside world had a variety of titles for them, but they gradually became unified in the end. This kind of thing was actually common. For example, the Xianlin Taoist of Taishu Temple was actually a title given to him by the outside world, and not his own Taoist title in Taishu Temple. Among them, Xiao Yan and Wang Lin's honorific titles were still controversial, while Shi Tianhao and Zhu Yi's were widely known, and there was basically a consensus. As early as when he was still in the gold core stage, he had attracted the attention of hundreds of sages. Zhu Yi already had the title of a half-sage. After he proved his primordial spirit, the golden bridge of the Nirvana realm was with him. The title of Easy officially spread throughout China, and was recognized by the world. As for Shi Tianhao, because of his cave abode in the Desolate Sky Valley, and the title of Desolate Sky Marquis in the Great Qin Dynasty, he obtained the title of Heavenly Venerable Huang after he proved his essence soul Dao. Other than the Great Qin dynasty and the Great Zhou dynasty, there were a few people who called him Heavenly Emperor Huang, or Emperor Huang. However, it only spread for a while and soon died down. However, many people thought that the current Shi Tianhao was only in the essence soul incarnation realm. With the strength and potential he had shown, it was only a matter of time before he would be called Heavenly Emperor Huang in the future. Just like the Celestial Emperor and the Thunder Emperor in the ancient times, that was still the era of the human emperor. As for the way the outside world called him, Shi Tianhao had always been non-committal. He did not express approval or objection. Therefore, although the outside world called him Heavenly Venerable Huang, many people in front of him, because they did not understand what he meant, they still called him Dao Venerable Shi or Elder Shi. Of course, there were also many cultivators below the Essence Soul realm who called him Senior Shi. Yes, Senior Shi, who was now 30 years old. Among those who called him that, there were many old Yuanying cultivators who were thousands of years old. The heavens beyond mountain that Chu Yang came from was now completely dependent on Xianmen Tianzong. Therefore, the people of the heavens beyond mountain often called Shi Tianhao Elder Shi, just like Xianmen Tianzong's family. I came to the territory of the Ghost Monkey clan to search for a treasure, and I was still at the outskirts of the territory. I never expected that I would alarm a ghost monkey at the indestructible demonic soul stage to pursue me. Chu Yang didn't conceal anything when facing Shi Tianhao, and he spoke frankly. Seeing that Shi Tianhao did not look like he was just passing by, it was very likely that he had seen him use the Nine Heavens divine sword. Therefore, Chu Yang said frankly, the ancient gate of heaven was destroyed in the hands of Jihuang Xinyuan, and some of the treasures of the gate of heaven became the spoils of war of the primordial demonic ape clan. I found some clues, so I came all the way here to try my luck. Shi Tianhao held the hellish great sage in his hand, and looked in the direction of the Nine Nether Peak in the distant sky. He smiled and said, "Your luck is not very good." Hearing this, Chu Yang smiled bitterly. In the distant sky, there was already a huge light shadow. It was a ghost monkey of 9 nether that was much stronger than the hellish great sage. Its eyes were like the ghost lanterns of the underworld, staring straight at Shi Tianhao. It was the hellish great sage. Since the hellish great sage of the immortal demon soul realm was captured, the hellish great sage could no longer sit still. However, he did not dare to act rashly, because he had already recognized Shi Tianhao. He secretly complained in his heart. He was originally guarding against Lin Feng, but in the end, Lin Feng's disciple still came in front of him. He was not afraid of Shi Tianhao, but fighting with Shi Tianhao would definitely attract Lin Feng. However, he was immediately shocked because he found that his disciple alone was not easy to deal with. Next to Shi Tianhao, a young man in purple slowly walked out. He looked calm and indifferent, and his temperament was very ordinary. The only thing that was more eye-catching was the white hair floating behind him. Wang Lin's eyes were calm. Silently, he looked through the layers of void, and looked at the 9 nether peak below the hellish great sage. He wondered what secrets were hidden here. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.